respectfully acknowledge this meeting is taking place on the traditional unceded territory of the Southwest First Nation. On, excuse me, adoption of the agenda is the first item. Someone prepared to adopt the agenda? Go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
That the July 23rd, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented with the additional information circulated for item 7C. And also, there's multiple information, new information for 7C, 7A, and 7B. And I think that covers everything.
And yeah, and with the deletion of item 7A, that's the, oh, hold on. No, my apologies, not that one. Disregard. Okay, and do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will move to calling the question. All those in favor, opposed, as carried unanimously. That takes us on to item 3, general matters. We have mayor and council verbal updates. We can start, Councillor Lerner, if you wish.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I just want to say a quick congratulations to the District of Lantzville and the RDN for receiving the Emergency Services Grant we applied for. A thank you to staff for the hard work on that, and I look forward to seeing all the wonderful stuff that comes out of it in conjunction with our neighboring communities and First Nations partners. So good news there, and hopefully there'll be more good news on the grant front, so that makes me very happy.
Councillor Savage. Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick note regarding the information sessions for OCP amendments. The first one was yesterday, and if I'm not mistaken, there's another one tomorrow night, correct, from 4 to 8 p.m. here. Thank you very much. And you can expect to get details at those information meetings. So residents, I hope you'll attend. And just so you know, the direction that council has given staff is for only amendments that are needed to comply with provincial regulations.
That's unnecessary,
Thank you.
Councillor Jones. Councillor Mundell. Okay, for myself, nothing. We'll just move on in the agenda. So are there any items from the consent agenda to be removed? Okay, hearing nothing, I will make the motion that the recommendations listed for items 4A to 4J in the consent agenda be approved. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner. I will move to calling the question. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to item C. So this is the 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw amendment for the temporary public works yard, fire hall, and fire training area.
Your Worship,
Oh,
pardon me.
did I? Sorry.
You just missed a page, I think.
Yeah, I flipped over and went to the wrong one. My apologies. All right, so everybody's probably expecting to do public input, so let's do that next. So persons recognized by the chair must, to speak, must first state their name and address for the record, may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise, are limited to providing comment regarding items listed on this evening's agenda, excluding public hearing topics. And on that note, we obviously do have an item 7B that has to do with a public hearing. So there'll be no comments received on 7B. However, on that note, if residents do want to write in and provide input, they can do so all the way through to the point we close the public hearing. So that's just a tidbit on that. And at this point, comments must be directed to the chair, must not be directed to individual council members, staff, or the audience. It must not include personnel issues. I see one person already at the podium. If you want to press the button, state your name and address for the record, and you got 2 minutes.
My name is Joe McMillan. I'm at 7016 Peterson Road. At the Wednesday, June 11th, 25 regular meeting, I spoke at the public input period about my concern that there were
Okay, Ms.
several...
McMillan, I'm going to stop you there because that item is not listed on this evening's agenda.
I can't hear you.
I said I'm going to stop you there because that item is not listed on this evening's agenda, and I believe I did receive...
It's in the agenda book right now. The agenda from here mentions it.
Okay, so if you wish, then go ahead, but
Thank you.
I do
It'll
take
be
note.
short.
Okay, thank you.
At the June 11th regular meeting, I spoke at the public input period about my concern there were several inaccuracies in the council's summation of my presentation to the Community Safety Standing Committee. I was astonished that mayor and council voted to accept the inaccurate meetings and have them on record. I am now submitting the corrected presentation and respectfully request that mayor and council rescind their first approval and approve the corrected version for the record, respectively. I've got them here. I can give them to. Thank you.
And Ms. McMillan, we will follow up with you. I did send you an email today. I'm sure you have you received that? Okay. And yes, Ms. McMillan is correct. On page 15 of the agenda, there is mention of the in the minutes from a previous meeting. Okay. Additional speakers. And as per the usual, name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Lance Kesselbrock, 7365 Spence's Way. I'm speaking in support of the rezoning amendment for the Superior Road properties.
Okay, Mr. Gusselbrock, I'm going to stop you there. This is subject to a public hearing, and therefore we are not receiving oral presentations or comments at this time.
Okay?
Thank you. Additional speakers. Okay, are there any remotely registered this evening? None? Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on into, make sure I got my agenda correct here. 7, legislative matters. So we have under 7A, development variance permit application for 6846 Metro Road. I will get the motion on the floor. Oh, sorry, Director Robinson, do you wish to introduce this item?
Yes, sir. I have a very brief presentation that I'm happy to take any questions the council has. I also note that the applicant is in attendance tonight and can also answer any question. There we go. The first item I have for you today is a development variance permit for 6846 Metro Road. Briefly walk you through the presentation. It's to increase the maximum height of a retaining wall for the rear yard on 6846 Metro from 1.2 meters to 2.55 meters. When a retaining wall exceeds 1.2 meters, the zoning bylaw treats it as a structure. So then subsequently, and understand my colleague, Mr. Morton, was discussing this as well, you have to reduce the setbacks of the interior and the rear lot line, the interior from 2 meters to 0 meters for the actual, to allow the placement of the retaining wall. So here you have a diagram of the wall location that is proposed at 2.55 meters at its highest point in relation to the existing building on the left side of the plan. This is also in your agenda package. So the property is located in the Lantzville Light Industrial Park, just up the corner on Metro Road there, as shown on the location map. Staff have reviewed the development variance permit application and are recommending that the development variance permit included in your agenda tonight be issued to vary section 2.51 of the zoning bylaw to allow the maximum height of a retaining wall to go from 1.2 meters to 2.55 meters, and to subsequently vary section 1.16 sub 3 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the interior side parcel line and rear parcel line setbacks from 2 meters to 0 meters to allow the retaining wall. Happy to answer any questions that council may have at this time.
Okay, through to council, go ahead. Councilor Lerner.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to staff, I appreciate the presentation. I just want to make sure I understand a couple things correctly based on the documents that were circulated this evening. The first is that without the variance, the retaining wall could be built in this location already with a 0-meter setback, but it would be limited to 1.2 meters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And also, if the permit is only issued for the 2.55 meter variance in height, or to vary it to 2.55 meters, then it would be limited to a setback of 2 meters unless a variance was also issued to 0 meters. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. So then my question is, would this change at all the height of the total height of the proposed cell tower located in the diagram on the property?
No, sir, I believe it would remain the same. I think they'd always intended to raise the elevation of the grading. This retaining wall simply allows them to level off the remainder of the yard.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, additional questions? Go ahead, Councillor Jones, and then Councillor Savage.
Am I correct that this is in a development permit area?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Is a development permit required in a development permit area?
For the form and character you're speaking of?
For everything that's in the DPA, is that required?
So it's not, it's in the development permit area for the industrial park. That development permit area guidelines apply to new buildings, so it would not apply to a retaining wall.
Thank you. So there's no development permit variance required, just a development variance permit.
You've got it right, Councillor.
Thank you very much. I have a question about the wall being put on the property line. I see from the drawings that a toe is required on the outside. So specifically, my question is with respect to the southeast corner, is it correct that the Ministry of Highways owns the property on the east of the wall?
I believe it is highways right-of-way, yes.
Highways right-of-way, thank you. So with a toe then, would, I think, need to be built on the Ministry of Highways right-of-way property? Have they been contacted and given
The toe of the
permission, or am
retaining
I-
wall is proposed to actually be on the property line, so it'll be entirely on the subject property.
So it would have to be inside the property line in order for the toe, which extends out, so the vertical line, walls like this, the toes like this. So that toe, whose property is that toe on?
It would be on the subject applicant's property, I understand, although he's got his detailed drawings and I'm sure could speak to it
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, thank you, that would be excellent. I have another question, but I'll wait on it, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Savage, go ahead, question. for Director
Yes,
Robinson.
thank you. Just for the sake of consistency, if the current owner doesn't need a development permit to extend the wall, that's fine. Don't want to cause any extra trouble, but some years ago, my father-in-law built the south wall, retaining wall, and did require a development permit and had to put in a garden and so on and so forth. So I just mentioned that in the future, maybe we could have a clear policy that's consistent. And just the other quick thing, generally with the industrial park over the years, this is just a variant, so it's not council's involvement, but just generally when these things come up, that it's up to the district to check for permitted uses, for the reason for the wall and so on. That's all just something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, I think disregard that, Director Robinson. We're not here to talk about bylaw enforcement for use later down the road. I'm prepared to get the motion on the floor, unless there's any specific questions regarding the presentation. Go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you. Just a clarification, if you would, on the drawings, just so I can understand the drainage. It looks like there's drainage rock on the south wall, so I guess the plans, if you could just confirm, are to drain through the southeast corner?
Perhaps the applicant would like to take that one.
Well, I would caution even commenting on that, simply because we're not here to discuss drainage plans. We're here to discuss simply a height variance and a lot setback. We're not here to, so Councillor Jones, I don't know how this actually pertains to the subject matter.
So I'll move on to something else then.
I'd suggest so, thank you.
Yeah, I get that. With the wall being 4 blocks high, at the highest point in the back, am I correct that the drawings show the fill will go to the top of that 4-block wall? Thank you. So I understood from the presentation last time, this had to do with leveling out the property so that larger trucks were able to maneuver around a little bit more. Will this be a distribution area in the future then for small product, large product? Just trying to understand the reason for all of this work, there's some change in use.
I believe that's already outlined in the report, and I think in terms of what we're here to discuss tonight, that doesn't have anything to do with end use. So I don't think it would be, it's appropriate necessarily to ask that line of questioning.
Well, it only pertains to end use then, I guess, insofar as there may be impact traffic-wise if there's large tanker trucks going in and out to,
Okay,
this
if I
is
may,
a
I'll-
distribution area?
I'll just simply read it from the report. Leveling off the current uneven rear yard of the subject property will increase the safety of workers loading the trucks and drivers pulling in and out of the property. So I believe it's asked and it has already been asked and answered.
Okay,
But it
so-
does not have anything to do, except for that bringing up the height of the wall. And I feel like we're getting into debating the actual
So we can
variance.
understand then there's no change in the use, it's just to make it easier for the existing use to function. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna get the motion on the floor. So, where are we at here? Flip my pages. Okay, so that the development variance permit number DVP 25-2 for 6846 Metro Road be issued to vary sections 2.5, subsection 1 of the zoning bylaw number 180 by increasing the maximum retaining height from 1.2 meters to 2.55 meters, and subsequently vary sections 1.16, subsection 3 of the zoning bylaw 180 to reduce the interior side parcel line and rear parcel line setbacks from 2 meters to 0 meters. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner, and, I'm gonna be supporting this. I'm not hearing any opposition to this. It seems pretty straightforward. Again, as you can probably already hear from the earlier questions and so forth, we really do need to limit our comments to what's being asked in the development permit. Regarding anything else to do with this site, and its regulated use and so forth, that's a whole separately entire matter. So, again, please debate what we're actually here to debate, which is the subject matter within actual development variance permit. So Councillor Lerner is the seconder, if you wish.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think I can support this, although I do look forward to hearing the debate around the council table. For myself, I'm looking at the fact that the 1.2 meter wall can already be built in this exact location with this setback. So what matters to me really is the difference between the 1.2 meter wall and the 2.55 meter wall, which is about 1.35 meters. So in that particular case, from what I can tell, looking at the satellite view of the properties, the pictures provided by the applicant as well as the drawings, is primarily that it's not something that would interfere with any other neighboring properties other than potentially, I did note what Councillor Jones mentioned with the toe of the wall, but it sounds like that has to remain within this current subject property. So that is important, and I think that has been answered. The other thing for me is whether anytime there's a variance is whether we as a council receive any feedback from the neighboring properties or the general community either in favor or opposed, especially since they are required to be notified. And in this particular instance, we've received no one opposed to this. So I think it's suitable for an industrial property. I think it's not necessarily suitable for a residential property, but for industrial, I don't see a problem with this. So, so far, based on what I've heard, I'm in support. Thank you.
Yeah, I should have mentioned, thank you for providing all the detailed drawings, but I do notice that they are stamped by engineering firm, and I'm unqualified to actually evaluate what's actually on here. I'm just going based on, what we have received to date from, as Councillor Lerner has mentioned, feedback from the public, which has been nil. Additional speakers on this item, Councillor Jones, go ahead.
Thank you. Just through the chair to staff, please, noting on the Lukowich Engineering Associates document, general notes, number 1, geotechnical inspections required. They list 4, bearing subgrade, geogrid installation, compaction of soils, drainage, free draining fill. Can staff just confirm that you have received all of those required inspections?
So through the chair to the councillor, those are construction inspections. So as the wall is being constructed, the engineers will oversee the construction of the wall. And then they'll provide the district with field reports to confirm they passed the inspections.
Thank you.
Any additional speakers before I call the question? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, noting Councillor Jones is opposed, it carries. That takes us on to the next item. So this is official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications for Superior Road Regional Service Area. So Director Robinson, you're going to lead us into this with a presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I have a detailed presentation, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have tonight. I also note that Mr. Malum and Mr. Henning are in the audience tonight representing the ownership group. There we go. All right. So here we have official community plan and zoning bylaw amendments for the for the Superior Road Regional Service Area. The background on the site is approximately 25.86 hectares. The current OCP land use designation is residential. OCP special plan area, it is in the Upper Lantzville Superior Road Special Plan Area, or SPA. In the development permit areas, it's in DPA 1 for watercourse protection and DPA 2 for interface wildfire protection. It's currently zoned Future Special Area Plan Zone, or FSAP. We've got the location map, which is also attached as an appendix to your report today. Note Island Highway to the north of the site and Superior Road, which bounds the site, and the News First Nation to the west of the site. So I'm going to go through the proposed OCP amendments before I go through the zoning bylaw amendments. The OCP amendments include the creation of a new regional service land use designation, which permits light industrial, service commercial, live work / mixed use units, retail sales, personal services, food services, outdoor rec, parkland, and natural environment protection areas. The land use designation, which is included in the OCP amending bylaw, sets policies to guide development in this area, includes parkland, transportation, buffering policies, and those kinds of things. The other piece of the OCP that's being amended is we're creating a new development permit area, DPA 12, which is a regional service development permit area for form and character. So it regulates the form and character of the lands within this designation. It includes a number of regulations that are listed there, as well as it's attached to the OCP amending bylaw, so you can read through all the particulars. I'll just briefly go through them. Building, siting, form, massing, scale, building materials, pedestrian active transportation, parking, loading, access, green buildings, parkland, riparian areas, buffers, signage, landscaping, retaining walls, lighting, fencing, grading, and stormwater management. So there's quite a comprehensive development permit area. The other item that's on the agenda tonight is the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. So the zoning bylaw amendment includes the creation of a new regional service zone. The regional service zone includes permitted uses of a variety of light industrial, office, retail, and warehouse uses. Dwellings are permitted above the ground floor to permit a caretaker unit or a live-work building for a maximum of 4 dwellings per lot. Height limit of 15 meters for intensive retail or warehouse uses, 16 meters for live-work buildings, 12 meters for all other buildings. That works out to about 3, maybe 4 stories if you can really stretch it. Minimum lot size is 0.2 hectares, 2,000 square meters, which works out to half an acre. A minimum lot frontage of 15 meters or 10 meters if it's on a cul-de-sac. The zoning bylaw amendment also includes a change to the zoning map to redesignate most of the site from FSAP to the RS Regional Service Zone, and to change a 1.84 hectare portion of the site to parkland over Narson Creek. Attachment 6 includes the proposed amenities that have been negotiated with the developer, including road improvements, frontage works, and 2 roundabouts. Dedication of about 7% of the site is parkland. Construction of a trail from Superior Road to a viewpoint on the easterly side of Narson Creek near the waterfall. Dedication of a 10-meter greenway and trail buffer along the southern boundary of the site. Construction of suitably sized water infrastructure to the southwest corner of the site at Superior Road and Normal Drive, with no latecomer agreement required. Construction of suitably sized sanitary sewer services to the southwesterly corner of the site at Superior Road and Normal Drive, with a latecomers agreement required. This means that other residents could connect to the water service without paying any kind of latecomer fee, or the district could extend that water main without paying a latecomer fee. However, if we did want to extend the sewer service at a later date, a latecomer fee would be required to be paid to the developers who paid for the extend the pipe. The project also entails a one-time community amenity contribution of $2.37 million in cash. A phased development agreement, or PDA, will be prepared for consideration by council. I do go over this in my report. It's quite time-consuming, and if the bylaws pass second reading tonight, staff will begin working with legal to draft the phased development agreement for future consideration. On the map here, I show the current location of the terminus of the water and sewer pipes in the red circle there, just above, sort of in proximity to the light industrial park and the highway there. So the developer would be proposed to extend the water and sewer mains along the length of the Harvey Road west to the Vanderhoek intersection, and then all the way down Superior to where the yellow/orange circle is at Normal Drive and Superior Road. So it's this extension of both water and sewer services along that stretch. The applicant has submitted several proposed subdivision plans, although I will note that these could be subject to future changes, as we're not at that stage of the development project. We're at the OCP and zoning bylaw amendment stage.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, point of privilege. Just
Yeah, go
wondering if you could speak into the mic, please, just to hear you a little better, thanks.
Oh, of course, Councillor. My apologies. So the applicant has provided two potential subdivision plans, although I want to note that we're not at the subdivision stage of this project. We need to establish the official community plan and the zoning policies that would then guide the subdivision of the site. So although they provided proposed plans, it's just their concepts right now. We're not at the stage of approving a subdivision yet. There's several phases that we'd have to go through before we get to this phase, but I wanted to provide them for council's information. So the applicant is proposing a three-phase subdivision. The first phase would involve development of where it says PH1 on the site, including dedication of the parkland over Narson Creek. And then phase 2 would be connection to Sanawas with the new proposed road and a little cul-de-sac. And then phase 3 would be the bottom left-hand corner of the site. They provided, again, two alternatives. One would have a large site in the middle surrounded by the roadway and smaller industrial lots. And the other one would break that larger site into smaller lots. The applicant, again, is at an early phase in finalizing the subdivision plan and identifying potential purchasers for these lots, so they're not sure what the actual final layout of the industrial site would be at this time. An economic impact and assessment benefits analysis report prepared by Urban Systems is attached to the report as attachment number 5. Just want to briefly go over this and pull out some highlights. The report reviews development concept and different options to develop the site. It sets the value of infrastructure improvements. Now, this report was prepared in 2022, so the value of the infrastructure has likely increased as construction inflation has gone up over the last several years. There's approximately $5.28 million worth of development cost charges to be collected by the district, and that's in line with the current DCC bylaw. There's a community amenity contribution, as discussed, of $2.37 million. Ongoing economic benefits, including an estimated 1,400 jobs. An assessed value of $294.7 million. Property tax estimates based on the value of the mill rates are reviewed in the report. And the report estimates an increase of $1.9 million in annual tax revenues at the time of full build-out. Acknowledging that the development is, in this report, is over a 10-year build-out period, the cumulative tax revenue over the 10-year build-out would be $12.97 million. Following adoption of second reading of the bylaws, public information meetings would be scheduled. So a report, so we would schedule the meetings, and council does have the ability to specify the number of meetings, time of day, that kind of thing, if they would like. Report back to council on the outcomes of the public information meeting would be provided prior to scheduling a public hearing, and then we would schedule a public hearing. Notices for both the public information meetings and the public hearing would be mailed to residents, posted on the district notice board and the district's website. Public hearing would be scheduled prior to third reading of the bylaw, and then we would be, again, just following the standard first reading, second reading, public hearing, third reading, fourth reading of the bylaw process. Staff's recommendation is listed in your agenda tonight. We have 5 recommendations. First and second reading of the OCP amendment bylaw, first and second reading of the zoning bylaw amendment, and direction to staff to begin to schedule public information meetings with the neighborhood. I'd be happy to answer any questions council has tonight.
Sure, thank you for your presentation. I'll just start it off just with a real simple question, and it's best to always hear it from the district than anybody else. Can you clarify who is actually running, or who's actually leading or running this application?
This application was instigated by the district.
Yes, okay, thank you. That's all I have for now. Through the rest of the council, Councillor Mundell, go ahead.
Thank you for that information. I think there were a few slides in your presentation that weren't included in our package, specifically around some of the site designs, because I've never seen those ones in any of the stuff that we've been given. So surprised, excited, I'd love to see more. Because what I read in, for example, the urban systems report, and it's in page 77 of our agenda, was that the concepts and costs were around development concept will consist of large format retail big box. But that's not really what I was seeing when some of the proposed site plans were up on the screen. So I guess I'm a bit confused with what's coming forward.
Sure. Again, there's 2 different options that we've been presented on behalf of the ownership group. When those are included in my presentation, we'll also be updating them to the project website that's on the district's webpage. So all the information will be online.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a lot of page of notes, but that's for the debate. So my question to refine that is, if this zoning as it is presented here, and of course, if it goes through second reading, there'll be public feedback and all of that. But if this zoning were to pass as is, would a 200,000 square foot retail store be allowed within this zoning?
Through your worship to the councillor, there's no floor area cap in the current zoning. That would be a way to potentially control building size. Like I said, the applicant is not at the stage of plotting out the actual lot sizes or anything like that. I think they were looking at a bunch of different options in the economic analysis.
Sorry, I appreciate the answer, but just as a follow-up to clarify, what my question is we're looking at zoning right now and OCP amendments, not subdivision. So if this zoning were to pass as is, would at the subdivision stage, a 200,000, just as is, a 200,000 square foot retail store be allowed?
If there was a large lot size that complied with the zoning that could fit a building that size, including the lot coverage and setbacks and everything else, then yes, in theory.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand that. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Yes, through the chair to Director Robinson, you mentioned that there could be 4 dwellings per lot. How many lots? So for a total of how many buildings, and does that include, or what are the zoning regulations for residential on top of the commercial, and what would that add?
Again, Councillor, they're not at the subdivision stage, so we wouldn't know how many lots are being proposed to be created. The zoning regulation allows live-work units. So if you can imagine, they're actually quite popular in a number of jurisdictions, like a shop or a workshop downstairs with somebody's apartment on the second floor. that kind of setup. And the 4 units a lot, would allow if you had like a small lot where you just created like a series of workshops and then people could live above them. It's like a live-work concept. It's not, I don't anticipate that being enormously uptaken in this site. I think there's a variety of business uses that would be highly marketable, but the applicant requested it to be added to the zoning bylaw.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not, I'm simply wanting to know what would be permitted if this zoning were to pass tonight. I understand that we don't know any details about what the application may be, but it is our responsibility to have a good handle on exactly what is permitted. My last question is, there's a 10-meter buffer going up Superior Road, which I understand would be for bikes, pedestrians, other things. Could you please describe the vision for that buffer? And specifically, will it permit cycling, dedicated cycling in both directions, and the same for pedestrians? Is there a tree buffer included there, should some trees want to be planted?
Through the mayor to the councillor, yeah, one of the amenities that is proposed is to dedicate a 10-meter greenway and trail buffer along the southern boundary of the site. I'm just going to pull up the aerial here again. So you can see along the Superior Road frontage, there's a number of trees that are existing on the site, so that buffer would seek to preserve those trees. And then within the 10-meter buffer, which is about 30 feet, a mixed-use path could be accommodated, as well as additional trees planted for buffering purposes. There's buffering and landscaping policies that are also included in the OCP amendments, including in the development permit area regulation.
Thank you. And do you also anticipate that there will be, I'll just call them active transportation routes, bikes, pedestrians through the industrial area?
Yep,
Light commercial?
Sorry, through your worship to the councillor. Yes, there's policies that encourage that in the OCP amendments.
Thank you.
Councillor Savage and then Councillor Mandel.
Thank you. So with respect to zoning, what's the definition of intensive resident or intensive retail?
So I would have to review that and get back to you, sir. I don't have the full zoning bylaw in front of me.
Okay. Generally, a definition can be that it's just simply those sorts of big stores that carry worldwide goods, like chain goods,
Larger format retail, yeah.
often chain stores. But beyond that, with respect to zoning, this zoning, I'm just curious, how would you know if it was intensive retail or not? Could we expect a definition of that at some point?
I could provide that to you, yeah.
Okay.
Right, just as a point of
Yeah,
information.
point of information, go for it.
It's, our zoning bylaw defines intensive retail as the sale or rental of heavy equipment, recreational vehicles, motor vehicles, watercraft, building supplies, gardening supplies, manufactured homes, wholesale or warehouse. I just found that now. So it could be a warehouse retailer, wholesale retailer.
And sorry, and that's taken directly from our current zoning bylaw 180?
180 on, 180 comma 2020 on our website. I just looked it up on the website. I just found it now, yeah.
I appreciate that. I was feverishly looking it up because we want to rely on what's in our bylaws, not, you know, I don't know what you're referencing, Councillor Savage, but here we go. Now it's asked and answered. You don't have to actually look that up, Director Robinson.
Thank you.
In the proposed zoning bylaw, it states that for intensive retail, it's permitted to be 3 stories. That's why it's important to know, not generally, but specifically to this zoning, that people get the definition of intensive retail. So thank you. And then the next one, are we simply rezoning this property tonight, then considering rezoning this property tonight, then in the future, a more specific G proposal will be coming to council, or if tonight's rezoning is adopted, then the G property can proceed within the parameters of the zoning.
Sorry, to clarify the process, Councillor, first and second reading are on the agenda tonight. So from there, we would go to public information meetings before a public hearing. So adoption would not be for quite a little bit while. But there's once, if and when the OCP and zoning bylaws are adopted by council, the next step would be finalization of the subdivision plan, and council would see a development permit for the form and character of that subdivision. So at that stage, you would see the final layout of the subdivision. You'd be able to review it against the guidelines that are included in the OCP amendment for the new development permit area. And you'd be able to ask questions about the parkland dedication, about the trails, and all those other pieces that are included in the development permit regulations.
Yes, so well, this ties into, included in our agenda is the 2022 Urban Systems Report. And it's based upon the Newcastle Servicing Report that showed a site plan of the one you flashed up on the screen there that had 27 lots. 26 were around, well under an acre, and then the other one, yeah, that's the one there, was 22 acres. So based on that, because it existed before in the 2022 site servicing, how would we go about having something like this before it went to public open house so people could specifically see the sort of thing they were getting, the same as previous big rezoning applications that had more detail? What would be the process for that? That's my concern. I want to present this. I've waited a long time for industrial commercial in Lantzville, but I want to present it in its best light, and that is to have something more specific for residents. Otherwise, if it's just a blank 62 acres, as Councillor Lerner brought up, the possibilities, the options are endless. So how would one go about that to ensure that?
So we're going to let Director Robinson answer now. Go ahead, Director Robinson.
Through your worship to the councillor, I'll add both of the proposed subdivision plans to the district's website, and we'll obviously include them at the public information sessions as well.
Yeah, so would something like this be assured before it went to public open houses, a more specific plan?
Well, these are the two options that the property owners have presented to us.
Yeah,
So they'll be included.
yeah, I'm sorry, what's that?
They'll be included in the public open house materials.
Oh, okay, and so what sort of assurance would we have then it would be one of those two? Would that come at the phase development stage, or at what stage would it happen that before we adopted this, we could be assured of a rough idea of the site plan, how much would be light industrial, how much commercial, that sort of thing?
Perhaps the property owners can speak to their plans a little bit better than I have. They've presented me with two different subdivision options, but again, we're not at the subdivision stage yet. So this type of plan would typically be finalized at a subdivision application stage. But these are the plans that they have presented to us as different options.
Okay, but just basic, my question is, what assurance can we get that something firm could be showed to the public before there's any open houses, so this can be presented in its best light?
I'm sorry, I really don't understand the question, Councillor. We're not at that stage of the development.
Okay, well, you said something like this will be shown at the public.
Yeah, both
open house.
options will be presented.
Okay, and there's a way to firm those up before the rezoning is adopted then?
I will present both options, sir.
I'm sorry?
I will present both options. Sir, you're seeking to finalize the subdivision plan? I'm sorry, I don't understand
I'm
the
just
question.
saying at one stage of the process, can we be assured that the subdivision plan or the site servicing plan, just like this, will be cemented before the rezoning is adopted?
So for larger rezonings like this, it's OCP and zoning bylaw amendment. We don't actually get into the subdivision layout until the development permit and subdivision stage. So the applicants presented these potential plans as options. And I will, of course, include all of the materials that I have in the public information, and it's all going to be posted online for public access. But it's not typical that you would finalize a subdivision plan at official community plan amendment stage.
So they'll remain options until after adoption of the
And then
zoning.
council will see a development permit for form and character for the subdivision before the subdivision is approved.
And another question, you might know or might not, but yes, this is a question for you. In the 2022 documents, there was no reference to residential, but now it's proposed to allow 4 residential units per lot above the first floor. How did that come about?
The applicant requested it be added to the zoning. Or sorry, the ownership group requested it be added to the zoning.
Okay. And were you clear on what sort of the intention was? Was that just for the work-live industrial units?
That's correct. Or for some industrial facilities like to have a caretaker unit attached to them for on-site security, groundskeeping, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And because with respect to 4 units, with work-live places, it's usually 1 unit. The owner lives above the workplace. And with this, is that because of provincial legislation, it had to be 4?
No, I think their intent is that based on a 2,000 square meter minimum lot size, which is included in the zoning, they could fit a live-work building that had 4 units on it. Plus all the parking and access and landscaping and everything else that type of building would need.
So it was unrelated to provincial?
No, these lands would be designated industrial or like an employment use, so the 4 units per lot piece would not apply.
All right. And what is your opinion that in terms of future conflict, if you've got residents living above an industrial workplace, it seems to me in the future there might be conflict with noise and so on?
So with live-work units, it's you live above where you work, and so it's that you're moving in there and you owning it, understanding that there's going to be some workplace-related noise. An example I can think of would be a lawyer who has their office downstairs and lives upstairs, or a small repair shop owner who just has an apartment above their shop. It wouldn't be in like an intensive industrial use that would have apartments above it. It would be, if you can imagine, 4 units in a row, and on the main floor is the business, and on the second floor is the people who own that business living right above it.
Yeah, it's just a different dynamic with 4, though, living above an
Just in a
industrial-
row.
I'm sorry?
So you would basically own the workspace, and then your apartment would be above, and that would be your condo unit, would be both of those.
Oh, I see. So the intention is to have 4 work-live units on a lot rather than 1 building with 4 residences above.
Exactly, sir.
Gotcha, okay. And that's your understanding, that's the sole intention of residential, it's just for the work-live situations?
And for caretaker units for the industrial buildings.
And that's it, yeah,
That's my understanding, yes.
okay.
Just as a point of information, just to add to that, it is listed as a secondary use under the proposed zoning bylaw, so you can't have one without the other. You have to have I'll let you speak to that, Director Robinson.
Yeah, of
That's
course,
coming from you.
sir. If you go to the zoning bylaw page, you can see that they're listed as secondary to the uses. So how that would work is you need to have a primary use, and then secondary to that, you could have the dwelling associated with it.
Now, in the Toth Environmental Report, shows a water course it calls a tributary, and it's west of Narston Creek, in the middle of the lower part of the property. It shows a required 10-meter setback. I didn't see that on this application. Maybe you could speak to that?
So I believe that's shown as a buffer on the potential subdivision plan. It's right in the middle of the map there.
Yep.
There's a bit of a line on it.
Okay.
And so any watercourse setbacks would depending on the eventual subdivision layout, would have to be, finalized and sorted out at the development permit stage.
Yeah, because it showed Norriston Creek on the, what we got in the material, but it didn't mention this, so you're aware of it then?
Yep, you can see it on this plan a little cleaner.
Yeah.
It's like shown as a tributary, and they do have like a bit of a buffer lot that it drains into it.
Okay, that's great. We've never seen these before, however,
So just as a point of information again on that, just so everybody's aware, like council did receive a binder full of reports, and are those full reports going to be posted, or have they? I haven't been on the website, so.
Some of those reports can be posted. Some of them are proprietary, but I'll be posting additional information online before the public information sessions.
Because I believe what Councillor Savage is referring to was included in that binder and is not included in tonight's material, so the public may be a bit lost on what Councillor Savage is discussing right now. Yep. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Savage. Actually, I'm gonna,
yes, so
I
I'll
don't know
let
how much
others
longer you got.
ask questions. I got more, but go ahead. Yeah.
So I have Councillor Mundell, and Councillor Lerner, and Councillor Jones.
Just for my clarity and for that of the public's, I think probably reading through tonight's agenda and the binder that we received are two distinct, very different looking applications and proposals. So I think that's where I'm confused, because when I read the proposal in here, it's specifically speaking to allow for commercial and light industrial uses. And there throughout the rest of the documentation that we have in this agenda speaks to that and the benefits and impacts and those pieces. So that's what I was sort of prepared for in my head, although having seen the binder from years ago, I guess I didn't pull it out to reflect on the variety of options, because I was more, I felt like I was being directed more in this specific direction. So I just am wanting to again clarify that the two proposals that are going to be brought forward to the public are the ones that we see on the screen, and that there'll be, again, sounds like some residential opportunities with the potential of industrial, light industrial, which is what is more themed in this agenda. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor. So the application has evolved since it was initiated by the previous council with feedback from the property owners.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
I just had a few quick questions. One was before we move on from the residential. I understand on the slide, and these slides I hadn't seen before. So this slide that says there'll be a height limit of 15 meters for intensive retail. That means what's defined as intensive retail in our OCP, such as warehouses, warehouse stores, retail of motor vehicles, that would be limited to 15 meters. And 16 meters for live work buildings. So my question is, the caretaker units, I understand, are caretakers for the people working in, let's say, the industrial. The live work units, is there actually proposed a covenant or requirement in the zoning that the people who live in those units also work or own the businesses below? Or could it be a case that because it's a secondary use, there could be industrial and retail below and apartments for sale to anyone up above? I'm just trying to understand what it means for the population impact.
Sure, Councillor. So live work units are a different definition than apartments.
Okay,
So apartments by themselves would indicate, a strata unit that could be sold above another use. For
Okay.
example, Coastline Station here in the village core is a mixed-use building. So it allows commercial uses on the ground floor and then apartments specifically above those commercial uses. Live work, again, is you live above where you work.
I see.
So it's a different kind of building format.
And it's a different definition then in our zoning?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question was similar to what's been discussed around the table regarding I'm trying to understand the process. So in 2020, I believe, the previous council initiated the rezoning request or process. There was this binder that was prepared, I guess, 2021, 2022, whenever. And then now this application, so two things. One, what we'd be voting on tonight as far as sending to the second reading would be purely what's in the agenda, not necessarily what's in the binder. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then my question therefore is, when it comes to the environmental reports, the traffic assessment reports, the tax impact assessment, some of what's in the agenda is identical to what was in the binder, some is not. So has the traffic impact report been updated for this new proposal as opposed to what was proposed in the binder? And has the tax impact assessment been updated this year for what is now in the binder in 2025 as opposed to what was initiated in 2020?
So there are some reports that are, that I didn't bother to actually pay to get updated, like the economic impact assessment. There's a lot of cost that goes into preparation of these reports, and I wasn't really allocated any budget to update the reports. And so if you recall, the district is the applicant in this situation. So I did rely heavily on the older reports. Happy to publish those on the district's project website for public consumption as long as they're don't contain proprietary information.
Okay, thank you. If I can just ask a follow-up? So then when it comes to something like the tax, in the urban systems report that we see where it's in the agenda, it says that there'll be X amount of tax revenue. Commercial and industrial pay vastly different tax revenue. I think one's 3 times mill rates, one's 7 or something like that. And the site plans show that are presented tonight, and that are in the slides you present, up there, the two plans have vastly different industrial and commercial ratios. Which one is the urban systems report based on?
I understand it's based on the one that you see here with the large intensive retail lot in the middle of the site.
And if that plan is not the plan that's used, how will that impact the urban systems report?
So if the alternative site plan is proposed, you wouldn't have a large format intensive store, but you would have a number of smaller retail stores. So you probably get a very similar square footage, which would be based on the assessment. But we could provide some updated information, and then I could ask the Director of Finance to provide some further comment if needed.
Okay, thank you. And since the live work is new to this proposal, would the live work and caretaker units adjust the value on BC assessment? Because a portion of it would now be residential, not apartments, of course, but a portion of it would be residential. Would that affect the overall BC assessment ratio that's used?
Through to the councillor through the chair. Yes, because if you're adding additional space that's residential or industrial, whatever have you, it will become accessible property. So you'll have, like initially it was just a single layer of industrial, light industrial, commercial, but now you're adding an additional living unit on top. So that'll add to the assessment, which will add to the tax base.
So if I if I may understand correctly, so it adds to the tax base, but also BC assessment does an assessment based on ratio. So if 25% of the building is residential, then 25% of the building is assessed at the residential rate. That's my understanding. So
Yeah,
it'll have,
based on use, yes.
it'll
that's
be a
correct.
complex calculation, basically.
Yeah, you'll have 2 calculations going in for one building, depending on how the ownership goes, but yes,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
thank you.
Okay, I have Councillor Jones next.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, Director Robinson, one quick question. Can these units above commercial be rented out?
There's no restriction in our zoning bylaw about tenure, so we don't regulate tenure.
So that would be yes.
They
They can be
potentially could
rented
be.
out. Yes?
But again, we don't regulate tenure,
Okay, so it's a yes, they can be rented out.
potentially.
Yes, thank you. The confusions that have been sort of expressed by other counselors are ones that I also share. And I'm trying to sort out in my own mind exactly why. And I think it's partly because it's very unusual for staff, for the district to rezone and at the same time receive bits and pieces of an application. And I understand that it was back in 2020, previous council that started this rezoning. We're sort of being asked here to finish it, and yet we are getting some information from 2020, and we're getting some information that's new. So it becomes a burden on us to figure out exactly what might be able to go in there, because we're not receiving any site plan to look at tonight. So I understand that, and at the same time, there's potentially a lot of work for our staff to do to answer our questions without knowing if that's worth your time, because you also don't know what the application will be. So to my mind, this is the predicament that I'm in this evening when looking at this. And I do recognize this is a special plan area. It has OCP and zoning, amendments that will go into the special plan area, but we're not seeing the plan, which is not consistent with what a special plan area is intended to do, as far as I interpret the OCP. So I am quite conflicted about this in many respects. I don't have a further question for you on that. I just see that, to ask for the district to rezone, but not really having an application for rezoning. And as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, if we do pass this rezoning and it goes through, anything which is in all of this rezoning would be permitted without requiring further approval other than form and character from council. Do I understand that correctly?
Through the chair to the councillor, generally, if you're zoning compliant, then it just requires a development permit for form and character.
So that's, again, a yes.
That's what you're setting up tonight.
understand.
You're setting up the OCP designation that sets the policies for the area, form and character regulations, and then the zoning.
Yep, with bits and pieces of an application, but we're being told it's not an application, so you see how it becomes confusing. And as you said, this is a big development here. Thank you.
Okay, I have myself down next, and again, I want to make sure we're clarifying information here so we can accurately be dealing with this. So, we've just heard comments about we're dealing with bits and pieces. I would, and I don't want to get into a debate here, but what I want to do is clarify with staff. Has staff received the necessary information to proceed ahead with a rezoning with respect to the OCP and our zoning bylaw? So what I'm referring to here is regarding the biology, or just the environmental assessment, the traffic assessment, all the necessary pieces, have those been ticked off for actually proceeding ahead with this type of application?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so again, we just heard earlier that there's bits and pieces. I want this council and I want the public to make sure that they've heard correctly tonight, that they have complete information. Our staff is not going in with this with incomplete. Now, we have heard some is from 2022, is that correct? So it's not all up to date, but we've also heard tonight that staff is saying, well, we're not going to spend more money on another, like, say, for example, economic development study, when it's not really going to really change the overall impact. There might be some ratios or whatever changing, but the overall impact is, actually, I should just simply ask you, Director Robinson, is the overall impact seem to be drastically different than what was basically received in 2022?
No, sir. We have confidence in the reports that are still accurate and in compliance with the provincial requirements and the information that we need to be able to support the application.
Thank you. And lastly, and I'll just kind of leave off on this because I do really want to get these motions going. In the presentation, Director Robinson clearly did state that the potential subdivision plans, the two of them that were included in this PowerPoint slide deck, were for concept only. I think that we have to be cautious here as a council. We can't expect there to be an exact or I don't even know what you'd call it, like site plan that specifically lays it out, unless that's what the owner group is dead set in doing. What we're here to deal with is setting the zoning policy and keeping it obviously in line with the OCP amendment. to basically allow for a multitude of uses. So really what it always comes down to is actually looking at the pages that are gonna be included in our zoning bylaw. And these would be the ones that are included on really on page 114 of our agenda tonight, which has the permitted uses. And then on page 115, it just continues along talking about this, the height and the parcel coverage and all that stuff. This is no different to any other kind of rezoning. It's just clearly a much larger parcel with a different use than we've had in Lantzville. So, I don't think we can expect, unless the owner group has a specific vision, they want to come in and say, here we go. We're not going to see a actual subdivision plan. And we've heard that multiple times from Director Robinson. At best, what we could hope or we could ask is, can we get some mock-ups of what some of this stuff may look like? And we're being provided with 2 such examples. But again, these are just for, it's for discussion purposes. So we can actually work through what the actual zoning bylaw has laid out in it for the rezoning. So anyways, I'll leave my remarks there. I think we need to get into some debate on this fun stuff. Unless there's any further questions regarding the information being received in the PowerPoint presentation and in general, go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
Sorry, I just had one question, which was with regards to the size of the commercial space. My understanding, based on the questions that were asked, is that in this rezoning, there's parcel coverage limit and setback limits and those sorts of things, but that the 100,000, 200,000 square foot retail stores could be allowed based on the rezoning. My question is similar to the one that I had asked staff to look into prior to this, which was some municipalities limit the amount that one individual retailer or industrial can occupy. So for example, 30,000 or 40,000. And then anything above that requires some sort of variance or additional rezoning from council so the public can have additional input. Have any discussions taken place between the district and the property owners regarding having that sort of covenant or limit in place where they would be limited to 40,000 or 30,000, but could apply for more with additional public input?
Through your worship to the councillor, it's definitely possible to do a floor area cap in the zoning bylaw. Again, we've been provided with 2 potential plans. One of them shows a large site right in the middle of the current properties, which could be used for a large format retail, large format warehouse, something like that, and then a series of other smaller lots. And then the other one basically carves that large lot up into smaller properties. So these are just the 2 options that I've been presented with, because it is important to have a concept, but again, it's not a final plan. If you did want to look at a floor area cap, it may impact the feasibility of the project. The property owners could probably speak to that a bit better than I could. But it is something that if you wanted to provide staff with the direction to inquire with the applicants or to look at options and present that back to council, we could definitely do that.
Councillor Savage, go ahead.
So just to confirm, I've been looking at this. We just got this on Friday. And what I've just heard, I didn't understand, I've just heard this for the first time, that this is strictly a rezoning proposition by the district. So that's why my questions, I am no longer puzzled about that. So they'll be included in this, there'll be no application whatsoever, no phase development agreement, no site servicing report. That site servicing report is irrelevant now if this is simply a district rezoning. The traffic study is irrelevant if this is just a general light industrial and commercial zoning, because that was based, that traffic report is based on a specific application, 27 lots, one 22 acres, the others under an acre, with the expected ratio of how much would be light industrial, how much would be retail. And now what I'm just hearing is those reports, they must be irrelevant because they're not based on they're based on a specific proposal, except the Toth report from 2016. But is that correct? So we can expect in this process, right through to adoption of this rezoning, there'll be no application whatsoever, and no phase development agreement, no preliminary subdivision layout, and so on.
Through your worship to the counselor, again, and maybe I'm having trouble understanding your question, counselor. My report goes through the fact that if second reading is passed, we'll begin work on a phase development agreement with the property owners. So there will be a phase development agreement, which will include the amenities that were being offered by the ownership group. So that's included in my report. So there will be a phase development agreement, but it costs money to engage the lawyers to draft that document. So I didn't want to engage in that work until council had potentially passed second reading in the interest of being conservative with our financial resources.
And in that phase development agreement, will that be with the owner of the property?
It would be with the property owners, that's correct.
And there's a potential of a preliminary subdivision layout in the phase development agreement. Was that going to happen?
We
You know,
could include
show-
that in the phase development agreement, yes.
Okay, so we can get a specific site plan then in the phase
So
development?
the existing amenities on offer are based on the zoning that's offered. We could get a potential plan definitely included in the phase development agreement. And the ownership group has provided 2 different potential plans, but staff could iron those out with the ownership group, which one they want to pursue for the purposes of the phase development agreement, if that's what council desires.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Lerner and then Councillor Jones.
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to keep not too many questions because I know we want to debate the motions, but the amenities in the agenda, it says will be provided at subdivision, which is standard. But one of the amenities in question is the water pipe for the winds, which if we want that to be combined with the grant to eliminate costs for the residents, has a very tight time limit on it. So subdivision can take potentially years. So what is the understanding that has been offered by the owners as far as that pipe? I know we received a letter about being shovel-ready, but I'm curious as to what is the legally binding requirement to install that at adoption of rezoning?
Through your worship to the counselor, so the phase development agreement can be structured to provide different amenities at different stages of the development. So we could include a clause in the phase development agreement that says, upon passage of this agreement, the developer shall immediately engage, blah, 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 blah. And then upon issuance of development permit, the developer shall provide X, Y, Z. Upon issuance of subdivision, the developer shall provide X, Y, Z. So we can structure the phase development agreement in different ways. Perhaps the ownership group could comment on when they'd be prepared to provide the water service.
Councillor Jones?
Yes, through the chair, Director Robinson, 2 questions. Can you please let us know if you've negotiated with the province for an extension of the water agreement, and if so, when is the final deadline for which it must be used?
Some of the answer to that is an in-camera item, counselor, but I will attempt to answer it to my best of my abilities. We have been in active discussions with the province regarding that grant and the use and timing of those grant monies.
Thank you. And the second thing is just for clarification, following up on something you said, Councillor Savage has said, and it's about the zoning. My understanding is if we approve this zoning tonight and you then sit down with the applicants and discuss the plans, is it the case that if those plans comply with the zoning, then the plans do not come to council for approval?
Through your worship to the counselor, they would come back to council for a development permit for form and character.
Just a development permit for form and character. So the plans themselves, the number of units, the type of units, the big box store, no big box store, whatever, none of that comes back to us for approval. If the plans comply with the zoning passed tonight, the only thing this council looks at is form and character, correct?
It's the development permit for form and character for the subdivision will be the next thing you get, and then you get the form and character for the individual site developments.
Thank you. That's exactly what I thought you were saying. Appreciate it.
Any additional questions? And I have heard it a few times this evening. Nothing is getting finalized or adopted this evening. There's no adoption of the rezoning or the OCP amendments. So just want to make sure that's perfectly clear. And then, for what it's worth, Director Robinson, if you don't mind just repeating the initial steps as we lead into the next section, that would be helpful. And what I'm referring to here is just the timing of, with the motions, like first and second reading, and so on. And again, it's best to hear it from you. Thank you.
Of course, Your Worship. So currently up for consideration tonight are your first and second reading of the official community plan amendment bylaw and the zoning amendment bylaw. Next step, following adoption of the second reading, we'll be scheduling public information meetings for the community. We'll be then hosting those meetings. And again, council has discretion to ask for 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings, whatever meetings you want. Generally, I recommend having 1 meeting during the day so that some folks can attend, and then 1 meeting at night so that other folks could attend. So at least 2 meetings. After those meetings are scheduled and written feedback is also collected, report back to council on the outcomes of the public information meetings will be provided prior to the scheduling of a public hearing. We'll then schedule the public hearing. Notices of the public information meetings and the public hearing would be mailed to residents, posted on the district notice board, and posted on the website. And if we can time it well with the community newsletter, we've been putting notices in the newsletter as well, because I feel like a lot of folks read that. Public hearing would be scheduled prior to third reading of the bylaw, and then third reading of the bylaws, and then you have to have a clear day between third and final. So then you would have, on a subsequent meeting, you would have adoption. During this whole public engagement process, staff will be engaging with legal and the property ownership group to draft a phased development agreement for council's approval. So I hope that helps, Your Worship.
Thank you. And clarification, or any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
Just one question with regard to the public information meetings or public information sessions. When it comes to notices and putting that out in wherever mailings, newspaper, newsletters, when is the soonest that public information meetings can start? And I ask because we're in summer recess over August and things like that.
I would recommend we could engage with 1 in August and then have 1 or 2 in September.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Yes, same topic about information sessions. Does council have the authority to dictate time periods which information sessions and public hearings cannot be held? So for example, to say that they cannot be held over the summer holidays.
If you wanted to begin them in September, we could defer them until then.
Thank you.
All right. Anything further? All right. I appreciate everything you've the time at the microphone there this evening. Thank you, Director Robinson. All right. At this point, I'm going to get the first reading on the floor. The District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw Number 150/2019 Amendment, Regional Services Land Use Designation, Regional Service Development Permit Area Bylaw 413/2025 be given first reading. Is there a seconder? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. I'm just making, okay. Next motion is that District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw Number 150/2019 Amendment, Regional Services Land Use Designation and Regional Service Development Permit Area Bylaw Number 413/2025 be given second reading. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Lerner, and then for discussion. So I'll just kind of open it up a little bit here. We've had lots of questions and some dialogue already this evening, so not that that should be intended to speed things up, but I did want to just bring you know, to council's, or refresh council's memory here, but on February 12th, we did have a motion that we did pass. Actually, why is it not coming up here? Oh, I got a freeze. Come on. There we go. It's come up. So basically, and this is how this has come about. So we've gone down history lane a little bit this evening to when this was initiated, and it was with the previous council. And then on February 12th, there was a motion that was unanimously supported by this council, and it had to do with this application specifically to facilitate the expansion of municipal water to the Winds neighborhood. The whereas clause is basically for this zoning for light industrial and commercial uses would positively diversify Lantzville's residential tax base. And further that, I have met with the representatives or one individual, the owner group, with respect to initiating, it was actually about abandoning our application at that time. However, the representative from the owner group asked that we continue, and that's what we voted on and supported unanimously, that our staff would continue with this application. Since February, it's obviously taken some months to get to this stage this evening, and there has been work, and there obviously has been some further discussions between staff and the owner group on moving forward. As Director Robinson's already indicated or said a few times this evening, has outlined the process in which we're following here, and the first reading, second reading, and public input and so forth. So I think you know, we're at a place now where we can move forward. This is in a lot of ways fairly straightforward where we're at this point in time. I think really what we need to do is bring it forward to the public to start weighing in on the information, and how we're going to do that is by simply holding, and I think 2 is not enough, but we need to be holding some public information sessions to better guide where we go from that point, whether or not we go to a public hearing or we look at potential refinements to you know, the application that this council that on behalf of the district in Lantzville is leading at the moment. So I'm supporting this as it stands now. It's one thing we haven't really discussed all that much is, and it has already been discussed a little bit, but is the economic development or economic benefit to Lantzville and the diversification of our tax base, which is huge. Right now, Lantzville is it's not in a good situation in terms of I'd say long-term sustainability. 97% of our taxation comes from residents. So it's very difficult to do anything without creating a higher tax burden on our residents. So we want more trails, we want more parks amenities, we want anything. The tax burden goes immediately to our residents. We have very limited tax base that's coming from light industrial and commercial. And if we want to try and you know, even keep up on our roads and a whole bunch of other things, we have to start looking at this diversification of our tax base. This is why it came forward when it did last term. And last term, it was also, you know, people didn't want a high, you know, intensity residential subdivision being put in there. So this is the tact that we took, and here we are today, continuing on that work. It doesn't mean that last council's decisions fetter us this term. However, we need to understand where is this coming from. And hopefully I've painted a clear enough picture of where it's come from and why we're doing it. And the side benefit is, and a lot of people that have gotten into Lantzville politics over the years, is to try and solve the problem of getting water to the Winds residents. And here we are, where we're at that point where basically a lot of the infrastructure costs are going to be covered off by through this development in conjunction with a grant. The only thing that will be likely remaining, or it could be some, you know, infrastructure costs passed on the residents, but it's going to be the physical connection and then their fee to pay to the city in Nanaimo, and that's it. There's a lot in the balance here. It's But again, I think how we get from here to a public hearing is we have to allow for the public to enter into this discussion. This needs to be expanded beyond this council table. Us batting it around isn't gonna accomplish much because we're gonna be landing in the same spot. What does the public think? So let's get the public involved now. And quite honestly, the public has been involved for many years, providing their input into what should be happening on this property. We have an OCP, we have lots of things. We've had lots of consultation. And we're finally in a position now where we have, this live application. Let's do something. So Councillor Lerner as the seconder.
Thank you. When we received this for the first time on Friday afternoon, I took notes, and then I went through the additional information tonight and the questions and took notes. So please, council, bear with me while I collect my thoughts, but I'll try and keep it brief. I appreciate that tonight's sort of a first chance for us to see some of this and what the owners and district have discussed and are proposing. I do understand, as Mayor Swain mentioned, that this was initiated in 2020 under the previous council as a drive to diversify our tax base and potentially bring water to the winds, and that we did pass a motion in February not to abandon it, but to bring it to the next stage where we could consider it. There was one other piece of history in there that I want to refresh council's memory, which was that almost 2 years ago, I brought a motion for this project because the current council had not seen anything to go to a committee of the whole, and that was passed unanimously, and that is when we received the binder that had all of that information, some of which is now moot and some of which seems to be relevant, but that information for whatever reason was not ready yet, and so we didn't get to have that committee of the whole. So this is sort of our first kick at the can at this, and I really do appreciate that we're getting all these answers. I also note that we have the water grant, which is an offered amenity that sort of ties in with this timing-wise. And the offered amenity isn't small. It equates to probably about $4 million worth of amenity for the water, if not more. That could make, as Mayor Swain mentioned, the water costs very, very low for the people in the winds. Does not satisfy every concern I heard from residents in the winds, including the fact that the connection is, how should I put it? It's not optional under the provincial grant requirements. That's not something council decided. We didn't get the chance to debate that. That was a requirement of the province that everyone connect within 1 year. And for that reason and the potential costs, there would still have to be a petition against process, even if this did go through and the costs were widely covered. That being said, I can't judge an application based on just one amenity, and nor do I want to feel recognizing that there is a timing constraint with regarding the grant, Water to Winds grant. I also don't want to feel rushed to accept a rezoning or an OCP amendment based on one amenity, because this is a development of such a size that it would impact all of Lantzville. It would potentially impact its semi-rural character in maybe good ways, including the diversification of our tax base and the benefits it could bring. But I have to consider all of Lantzville, not just one neighborhood and the amenities they might get, although that the closest neighborhood is always of the prime consideration for me. Noting when I went into this and started reviewing the application, I looked at our OCP. The OCP, this is a considerable OCP amendment I have to consider. The OCP calls for housing of approximately 200 units in that location. And when the previous council initiated this process, it was to switch it to light industrial and commercial. Both have pros and cons. I think light industrial and commercial is probably a better deal for Lantzville because we get the higher tax base, considerably higher than residential. And I thought going into this that there would be no population increase because what was in the binder did not include any residential. And I'll remind council that our recent census was around 3,800 people. Our population estimate is now around 4,000 people. And once we hit 5,000 in a census, we get increased policing costs to the tune of millions of dollars. So I am somewhat concerned by the live-work units. That to me was unexpected, and I do have concerns about that. I would be interested to find out if that is an absolute requirement, because the live-work unit, both in the form of the apartments above and the caretaker units, would greatly increase our population. So let's assume we go by the site plan that showed 27 units. Not all of them would have live-work, or as many, but let's say they averaged 3 units. You're now looking at probably 80 units, let's say, and those units could have multiple residents. So we could be adding hundreds of people to our population, which is inevitable. But one of the things I liked about this application or the thought of this when I heard about when I saw the press release in 2020 was that it did not include residential and therefore not a population increase, just a tax base increase. So that is a blank question in my mind at this moment. The next, of course, is the multiple site plans, and I understand that there's a development permit process and a subdivision stage, but the tax implications of the site plan are vast when you're dealing with a property of this size. The urban systems report that was included in this agenda talks about multiple options, as do the site plans. Industrial pays more than double what commercial pays. So if we're looking at a 200,000 square foot retailer or the urban systems report quotes multiple 100,000 square foot retailers, those are paying only commercial rate, whereas the industrial rate would be higher. So I would, of course, personally prefer the 27 units versus a large thing. And that's where it comes into the discussion or the questions I was asking earlier of our staff, which was the ability to have community input. Many communities deal with this. They deal with retailers who want to be 100,000, 150, 200,000 square feet. And in my personal opinion, those have a very different impact on a community than the smaller lots. So for example, if you're looking at 200,000 square feet of retail space, my personal opinion is that 10, 20,000 square foot retailers have less of an impact than a single 200,000 square foot retailer. That's just my personal opinion. They might not have a big impact on tax, but when it comes to the form and character of a community and the semi-rural nature of Lantzville, you look at our industrial park that we have now, that could easily be 10 or 12 units, 20,000, 30,000 square foot each, and each of those hasn't really had a major impact on the feel of Lantzville. Those are places that are serving our local community, providing small and medium-sized businesses, and are serving the general area, providing jobs and a tax base. When you get to the 200,000 square foot, one retailer at that size, which would be permitted in the zoning we are debating tonight, those are the destination retailers. Those are the retailers. So when you get off the ferry and you go to Duke Point, that Bass Pro Shop that is the largest in Western Canada, that's 175,000 square feet. So that gives me a picture of what we're talking about. And this site could accommodate 2 or 3 of those. So when I'm thinking about that, I like the idea of saying, yes, let's rezone industrial and commercial, but have that limitation that many other communities use, which is that you are allowed to have up to 30,000 or 40,000 square foot per retailer, which is the size of, let's say, a grocery store, which I know our community would probably love to have. But if you want to go to that 100 or 200,000 square feet, you have to go through an additional process, which requires council and community input. So that's another blank question in my mind tonight, that I don't really know whether the owners would be okay with that. I don't really know what the process is for that. And so that's another blank question. But we're not the first to land on the moon. There are other communities that have had to deal with this. So would those large retailers be a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure, but they would be a different thing. And so for Lantzville, it would be a change. So I don't want to delay this unnecessarily. I think that certainly having the ability to go to public information sessions would be helpful and would give chance for community involvement. However, be honest, I'm not entirely sure what I am sending to a community information session or public information session, because there are many questions in my mind about what would or would not be okay. And some of that includes the urban systems report, which is based on a specific site plan, and I'm curious about how different site plans would impact that. I am curious about what has changed in the last 3 years. There's the geotechnical report, which was in our binder, but is not in this agenda. The traffic assessment, which was in our binder, there were multiple pages of that, but none of them are in what we're discussing tonight. And for me, I don't know what I would be sending to the public, because what we've heard tonight is some of what's in their binder is proprietary and some is not. So I am not sure exactly what would be sent to the public if we pass second reading tonight. For me, the traffic impact is probably the biggest one, and I appreciate the offer of the owners for the amenities of roundabouts. Some of the questions for me are how would these new live-work units, potentially 100 of them or 80 of them, impact the traffic assessment? Many of the things that we've seen, like the long-term care facility proposal, included traffic assessments that specified the increased percentage on different roads. I don't know if what we got in that binder is still relevant, and so I don't know if we would have to have another traffic impact assessment before sending to the public or not. All of these are big questions. And so my bottom line is, I think we have three options here tonight. One is to defeat this, which I don't want to do. I feel that defeating this ends the application. It kills the proposal without any chance for public input and answers to our questions. The second is to pass this second reading, in which case we could potentially schedule the public information sessions, which is a future motion. That could work, and I'm willing to entertain that, but my concern about that is, like I said, I don't know entirely what I'm voting on and what I'm sending through, and maybe that's just me, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but that's where I am right now. The third option is for us to defer this to staff for, let's say, 30 days, 40 days, to get answers to all of those questions, to let us know which of the traffic impact reports, which of the environmental assessments, which of the urban system reports are still relevant and which ones we may want to choose to get updates for. And there are no council meetings in August. I would not be in favor of holding public information sessions in August anyway. Our first council meeting back is September 3rd. So if this came back on the September 3rd meeting or the September, I think, 13th or whatever, the next meeting after 17th, whatever, 17th, there would be, I'm not sure if there would be any delay, but because I doubt those things could be held over August anyway. My other thought is that actually might be the fastest way to get this application processed. Because if we vote to send for second reading tonight, and then we vote to send this to public information sessions, and we determine, or the public determines, that the information is incomplete, and we've spent 2 months doing 3 information sessions and maybe a public hearing, and then there are substantial changes to the proposal, then we might have to do another 3 public information sessions and another public hearing. That's not fair to the owners, in my opinion, because now we've had them go through 2 rounds that could take 6 months. I would much rather refer this to September and then have the public information session all in one go. So that's where I am, and I look forward to hearing the rest of council's debate. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers. Councillor Savage, go on.
Yes, thank you. So I'm finding all this out for the first time right now. I looked at this over the weekend thinking we were looking at a development application with missing information. And now tonight I'm finding out that is it an application or isn't it? It sounds like it's not, and then I keep hearing references to phase development agreements or reports that are completed and so on, which makes me think that it is an application. And I have been through the binder. We were given all the things, and I really liked, just speaking for myself, I really liked the site plan in there, and the other one that was flashed on the screen, which I've seen for the first time. I really like that one. And that's specific enough for me because it lays out what's likely going to be light industrial, what's likely going to be retail. And that's what I was basing what I thought would be coming forward. And now it's what I'm finding out tonight. And all along when we reaffirmed that we wanted the light industrial and commercial on this property, there's just so many reasons I like that. I thought an application from the owner would be coming in, and I thought that's what this was. But now I'm finding out the first time tonight that it's more the parameters of the rezoning, and then after it's adopted, we'll find out what the specific plan is but will have no say in it. So, and yet there's still talk of a phased development agreement. So I think for me, I need to find out, and because I'm seeing it all for the first time tonight, I like that idea of approaching it in September and then moving quickly when we come to terms, because what I'd like is to have the application twinned with this, giving the owner security of a phased development agreement so he knows exactly what he's getting, and the public will see something, because I agree with Councillor Lerner. I don't think there's anything for the public to see if we put it out to the public. It's just 62 blank acres. And yes, you can show them different site options, but those are just options. They're not what's being presented or what will happen necessarily. So I would much prefer that this be an application, as, you know, because we're rezoning it anyway, why don't we include a full-throated application with it? And it's already been done. I really like the fact the traffic study's already been done. The Newcastle servicing study has been done. Theirs are great. I always like those. It's been done, so if it was a site plan fairly similar to that, it wouldn't take much at all to alter the site plan, and it would still apply all of Newcastle's servicing, and the traffic report would still apply, the Toth environmental would still apply, everything's in order. There's no reason not to proceed with a set application. So this seems to be everything but the actual application. So that's what I would prefer. And the reason for me that I like all this, the light industrial, it's better than the high-density residential alternative. And just to give one example, in the OCP, back in 2019, it was 205 residential lots, but now that would be times 4 because you're allowed 4 units per lot. That would be 820. And with the pressure from the provincial government and so on, we can be assured it'll be very high density residential, and you don't get anywhere near the tax benefits that you would with light industrial. If you just think of Boxwood, that's a very pleasant area there in Nanaimo, and it's all light industrial along there. And I've done an analysis on the per acre tax assessed value and the building tax assessed value per square foot on there, and it's big money you're getting for taxes and very low impact on the community. And we do need a commercial and light industrial tax base. In the report, it's not too far off my what I came up with as a summary for that amount of acreage, and that's 1.9 million per year in taxes. Well, in 2024, last year, we collected less than 4 million in taxes. So that's over a third of the taxes we collect just from this one project. That will be eventually at full build-out. As well, we'd be getting a cash amenity of $2.37 million. That's a large hunk that will help. The one, even if it's 1.5 million in taxes every year, you could build a new, replace a road every year with that money, medium-sized road. And there's a proposed trail along Superior with a 32-foot wide greenway buffer, which would solve pedestrian safety. That's come up a lot from the Winds residents. And the proposed roundabout at the bottom would solve that awkward corner there, which we've had complaints about lately as well. So there's a lot there, but it's such an almost complete application if you just go back to the binder from 2022. And if it's something similar to that, why not just go with something like that? And it'd be so little work for the owner to pick one of those site plans or have both as options. I like both. And then include it in a phased development agreement, preliminary subdivision, layout, and so on. So that way, the public has something they're looking at. And all I'm saying is just that I would be happy to present that to the public, let them have their say. But the way it is now, we have nothing to show the public that's firm. So between now and September, I'd like to see if that's possible. It's too bad we have a break and it's not 2 weeks from now, but I agree we're not holding it up at all because you can't really have public meetings in August, and we're trying to, have the public on board with this, not to got off on the wrong foot with it. So that's where I'm sitting now, is I really, really like, I'm not speaking for anyone else, I'm not speaking for the public. I just personally really like what I'm seeing out of that binder in terms of the immense benefit and the lighter footprint it would be. And sometimes you just have to pick something that's reasonably good now, because in the future, other options may be nowhere near as good. So that's where I'm standing. I would really like to see this be an application and move forward quickly with it so the public can have their say, they can see what they're getting. But I'm just a little unsure of what's being presented now, and it's very hard for me to vote on something where I don't know what I'm voting on. Is it an application or is it not? And I'm hoping it does become an application, because I certainly will support it going to the public, and me personally will quite like it for so many reasons. And yes, water to the winds is one aspect of this, but it's just one aspect. There's lots of other aspects. One's the economic and so on. So that's where I'm sitting. So I would support referring this to the next meeting, because back to staff for the next meeting, because I really want a definitive answer on what we're doing here. I'm still puzzled. I don't know if this is purely rezoning and nothing else, or if it's also an application, because if a phased development agreement is included, then it's definitely an application. And if so, let's get the example of those options that were there sooner rather than later. And so that can be part of a package the public can see, knowing that's the intention.
Sorry to
Thank you.
interrupt, Councillor Savage. You're at 10 minutes, but I must say, I don't know how long I spoke for, but Councillor Lerner did have about 13 minutes. And I understand the gravity of this, what's before us. So I am extending some latitude on speaking time. So I don't know who's next. But actually, sorry, I did have one point of clarification just with yourself. When you refer to application, I'm trying to understand what that actually means.
An application.
Well,
An
microphone.
application by the owner that's more specific, just as specific as those servicing site plans we saw on the screen there. Yep.
Okay, so I have to make sure we're all dealing with the same information here. So through to staff or Director Robinson, do we not have what would be considered an application before us this evening?
Yes, Your Worship. So there's first and second reading for both OCP amendment bylaws and zoning bylaw amendments. So if I can also just say, if members of council are concerned about certain provisions in these items, you can amend them before adoption of second reading. So for example, if you'd like to remove the ability to have lift work units or any residential component, you could just pass a motion to amend the proposed bylaws before second reading. Staff would just then clean it up and bring the amended bylaws back when they come back for third reading without those pieces that you ask us to remove. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jones?
I will definitely keep this under 10 minutes. I also would like to refer this back to staff for further information. For example, with respect to the water in the winds, we don't know how much this will decrease the cost to residents. I would like to have that information. I've heard various numbers, but nothing solid. And I would also like a staff report on the impact of the maximum number of residents that could be housed in the commercial, in the units above the commercial. The problem that I see is very similar to what Councillor Lerner and Councillor Savage have already said, which is that we don't know what we are sending to the public. And for me, the question is, what is the solution to that? Because I simply cannot pass a second reading without knowing what the details are. I am under the understanding from Director Robinson that if we do pass with this zoning, the details have not only have they not been provided, but when they are provided, it is not the authority of this council to review them and make further changes, except for form and character. And that concerns me a lot. What the solution to that is, I'm not quite sure. Perhaps it's that council does not do this rezoning, but that the applicant tidies up exactly what it is they want and presents council with an application, and staff presents council with the staff reports and various impact analyses that go with that. So in my opinion, again, we should not pass second reading tonight, but should send this back to staff for further impact analysis and consideration after discussions with the applicant. Thank you.
Additional speakers? Okay, I'll go again real quick. I keep hearing through the council that we wouldn't know what we'd be sending to the public. I totally don't understand what's being messaged when that's being said, because it's pretty clear in our agenda, and I think it's pretty clear to staff what they would be taking to the public. And I've already made reference to page 114 of our agenda, and that has to do with the zoning that would be proposed. That's what they take to the public and present to the public and ask and answer questions to the public on, and then receive input from the public on. It's kind of troubling because we did receive an information binder, and all the information in that binder is nice to have information, but it's not necessarily required information. That has more to do with the property owner deciding this is something that is, possible. So doing the traffic analysis and doing the environmental studies, is it possible what they're proposing can actually happen? That's why it's called doing their homework, but it's not necessarily required to take it to this process. It's similar to like if we were doing an OCP rewrite right now, we wouldn't be doing environmental assessments on every single large parcel that we'd be putting into our OCP or revising. We wouldn't be doing traffic analysis on it either. I'm really kind of puzzled as to the asks. I don't even know if staff would have it. I think staff would need clear direction in every motion. We'd need to schedule a special meeting to give clear direction on what staff is to do. But I'm kind of lost here. Like this is pretty straightforward stuff, no different to pretty much any other OCP amendment we've done in rezoning. It's, we get presented with the table for the zoning bylaw, and then we have the OCP amendments sheets to go into our OCP, and then that's it. So I at this point would really like to hear from the public. And, the public can obviously roll the film on this and hear what each individual member of council had to say about it. But I think at this stage of the process, let's find out from the public if they're okay with having work-live units on this property. Or if they're happy with the amendments, or the amenities, that are being proposed and everything else. To say that we didn't have any information coming into this, or there's gaps, we've already heard tonight, there are no gaps in information. Staff has what, that's being considered complete information. And I guess it really begs the question, and not to put staff on the spot, but I have to ask the question now through to staff or Director Robinson, do you have enough information to go to the public to hold public input sessions?
Yes, sir.
I'll leave it there. I have nothing else to really say. First-time speakers, and then we can keep going around the horn. Councilor Lerner, go ahead.
Sorry, I do appreciate that we have received extensive reports that are not available to the public in a binder from 2 to 3 years ago, that some reports are older than 3 years, some are, I think, 6 years. And they were included in that binder after we passed a motion to receive it. So they would come and then bring it to a committee of the whole to discuss it. And that committee of the whole never happened. And some of those reports are proprietary, some are not. I don't know which ones are going to go to the public, which ones are not. I don't know whether the reports are satisfactory. I understand that there is always a recommendation that comes to either take a certain action or not take a certain action with a motion, and I appreciate and respect staff's opinion on that. But it's up to me as a member of council and a servant of this community to determine whether I'm satisfied that I've done my due diligence before passing second reading. I do fully agree that we should be sending this as soon as possible to public input, or actually public information, which is an opportunity for people to learn more about the project and give input to the presenters, which would not be council or whoever's presenting it. But honestly, I don't know what I'm sending. So that's where I'm at. And that's me as one member of the council. I'm not speaking for anyone else. And I fully respect if other people feel differently. I have a referral motion ready, but I will wait and see if anyone else has anything else they want to say before I refer. But I also think this is the fastest way to do it, because this will allow us to get what I believe are our ducks in a row before going through what could be a multi-month process, only to have to do it all over again. I noticed that staff did make the important note that we could right now amend second reading. We could amend second reading to eliminate the live work units. We could amend second reading to limit the size of retailers, but we don't know if that's okay with the owners. And I don't think it would be fair to the owners to make those amendments now if they're not prepared to move forward with what we heard from staff was that the amenities and impacts and contributions are based on what is proposed. So if we change that tonight, we don't know what the impact is. Part of my referral motion is to have staff confer with the property owners to find out if those live work units are really 100% necessary, or if there could be a limited number of them, or if the property sizes could be limited for individual retailers. Those are blank questions in my mind right now that I have no answers to. And I don't want to make assumptions on behalf of the property owners. And I certainly don't want to make assumptions on behalf of staff. So my thought at this time is to refer it to come back in September. We don't have any meetings between now and then. I doubt there'd be any information sessions. It's pretty straightforward to me to have the best information at our fingertips that we can before we make a decision. But I'll leave it there, and I'll see what the rest of the debate is. And if it comes to it, I'll make a referral motion.
Okay, Councilor Sav.
Yes, it was asked what we would expect, and in the binder is exactly what I'm hoping to get. It's an excellent application in my mind. In the binder, it's got the 2022, June of 2022, the Newcastle servicing study, excellent report. The traffic report is good. It has also the urban systems economic report, very good. It's just that all we got tonight is the urban systems report, which isn't relevant without a direct, without a specific proposal as it was in the binder. So that's all I'd like to see, and I fully appreciate having some flexibility in the site plan because you want to accommodate if an opportunity comes up, but should be a rough approximation of what we can expect in terms of percentage of industrial, percentage of commercial, and so on. So that's what I would expect. Bring those same reports to include, if this is an application, to include those, and then have some examples of the site plan that can be firmed up in the phase development agreement. And that's all. That's my idea of a full application. And just like it was in the 2022, if I don't know if that was a formal proposal or preparation for one, but I thought it was excellent. So if all those could be included, I'd be happy to vote on it in September. It's just the whole idea of there's nothing to show the public is there's nothing to show them what is going to go in these 62 acres. So, and a site plan, even a servicing site plan, makes all that possible with flexibility. I understand the need for flexibility. So anyway, that's what, just thought I'd mention that. That's my idea of an application. So thank you.
Okay. And again, just to reiterate, we've heard from our planner, we have an application before us this evening. What would go to the public, just so everybody is clear, is pages 100 to 117 on our agenda. That is the OCP amendment and the rezoning amendment that would be put on poster board and displayed to the public for comment. We've heard from our planner this evening, everything is ready to go, or will be ready to go in terms of information, like there's nothing more to add. So unless you would be hearing from our planner, we need to add more information and it needs to be authorized by council. I would say council is getting in the way of this application moving forward. That's just my opinion. At this point, yeah, I guess the only other thing is I really do want to hear from the public. That is so very important to me, and I don't even think we need it to go to, even if council doesn't want to approve second reading, then so be it. But there's no reason why we should be putting a full stop on taking this to the public. So my question through to Director Robinson, I know maybe a little unorthodox, but is there any reason why we've done first reading that we can't simply just go to the public now?
Well, Your Worship, the typical process is to adopt second reading so that council's opportunity to make any amendments to the bylaws before it goes out to the public. So generally, the process is first reading gets it on the table, second reading, you get a kick at the can, goes out to the public hearing. Third is basically your last chance to make any changes. And then final is, fourth and final is adoption. So it's unorthodox, but you definitely could put it out for public information at this time. I think that there would be value in council providing any feedback before that.
Fair enough, and I guess my comment to that then, again, unorthodox, however, would be that, you know, council's had this information and no member of this council has come this evening tonight with amendments ready to amend second reading to allow this to move forward. So I guess for now, maybe the only thing that'll make sense is to refer this back to staff to see if they can resuscitate it, pump some life into it. But I'll leave my comments there. And additional speakers before I call the question? Oh, sorry, you have yeah, go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
I'd like to make a referral motion, please, rather than vote, because I don't want to defeat this. May I make a referral motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
The council refers District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw Number 150, 2019, Amendment Regional Service Land Use Designation and Regional Service Development Permit Area Bylaw Number 413, 2025, to staff to obtain further answers. I'll go slow now. To obtain further answers to questions asked and discussed by council at the, and then today's date, June 23rd, 2025, regular meeting of council. Are you good so far? Okay, such as regards various impact reports included in the previous information package provided to council. and to confer with the property owners on items such as size limits for retailers and the number of live-work units. And further that this OCP amendment return to a council meeting in September 2025 for consideration of second reading.
Do we have a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Savage, and then for discussion.
Yes, these are all good points. My concern is that I don't want to make amendments to second reading that I think could be unfair to the property owners. I did come prepared with the potential of making those amendments, and that's why I asked staff, could we amend to limit the size of retailers? Could we amend to get rid of the live-work units? But those could be things that the property owners consider vital. And at the same time, there are a lot of questions that probably can't be answered tonight that staff have to determine which reports are proprietary and which things are included. If I look at the pages that are in the agenda, a lot of these things we did not see before tonight in the sense of the slides. We saw what was in the agenda starting on Friday. The site plans, I did not know which ones were going to be presented tonight. So I know those are not necessarily part of this package, but I do think that getting answers to these questions is only fair to the property owner, to council, and to the public. And I want to see this go to the public with as much information as possible so that the public can provide thorough input, because it's in my opinion, our job as council to serve the community and what they want. So anyway, I will leave it there. I'm in support.
Director Robinson, just hold on a second. Councillor Savage.
Through your worship to the councillor, I'm trying to obtain some clarity on your referral motion and the information that you're asking for. So you'd be looking to obtain copies of the background reports that were already provided to council, but public copies?
May I answer?
Yeah.
Basically, which of these reports can be put in an agenda and released to the public, we don't know at this time. So basically, some are proprietary, some are not. Some could be outdated, some could not. The binder included some reports on different things that were like 2020 reports and then 2022 reports, and some of them might be relevant and some might not be. So just answers to that, so that we know just for me personally, what I could be sending to the public.
Sure, okay, that's helpful, sir. I will remind council that council initiated this application, and as the applicant for the application, they were provided with background information which may not be suitable for the applications that are before council in a public setting. So I will do my best to filter that in regards to your comment. The other question I had, your worship, if I may, your second part of your referral would be to confer with the property owners in regards to the size of the retail and live work units. Would you be seeking input from the property owners as to if they would be comfortable removing the live work units and placing a floor area cap on the size of the retail? Is that your angle?
May I answer? Yeah. It's basically either remove the live work units or place a cap on the number of them. Or would the property owners be comfortable limiting the size of the retailers? Would they not? Or some sort of ratio? I don't want to make assumptions on behalf of the property owners, so just seeking clarity on that.
Councillor Savage.
Yep, so, and for me, if we could have included,
Have to make an amendment.
no, not amending anything, it's just
If you want requested information, you gotta do it by amendment.
well, I'm just giving the reason why I'm supporting referring it, because the missing ingredient for me is a site plan that can be pointed to indicating as to roughly what we're looking at to fill in the 62 acres, something that can be firmed up before adoption of this rezoning, so we know what we're getting, I think is the key. And in terms of us having all this information, I just found out tonight that this is roughly the application information that was in the binder. I had no way of knowing that over the weekend. There was no indication of that at all. no site plan included. For me to conclude that, I'm learning all this tonight for the first time. That's another reason why I would prefer to refer it, because it's a lot of information we've gotten tonight, and I thought this, as I say, was the owner was making the application, and it sounds like he is, but I'm still not too clear of the role everyone's playing in this. Maybe we could firm that up in September too. If this is an application that's not a lot needed, it's just everything that's already there, including those option site plans we had on the screen, would be great. Thank you.
Counselor Jones? I saw your hand go up first. Counselor Jones, go ahead.
Well, my concern here, first of all, say I do support the referral motion, but I don't want to be caught in the same situation that I feel we're in now, which is that because this is a council-initiated rezoning, so long as the site plan and details comply with the rezoning, once we pass it, we cannot have any further input other than under form and character. This is most unusual. What I think we need to get to, and it's in there in your referral, you're asking for a lot of information, and Councillor Savage wants to see a site plan. I think we need an application from the applicants. And then that will be something we can look at, knowing that when and if we pass it, that is binding. But at the moment, whatever comes back to us with this further information, it isn't binding. The applicant can turn around and go make whatever changes they want, so long as it complies with the zoning. That's my understanding. The other thing is, yes, I would like also to understand the impact of the residential and also on the water to the winds, that data as well. Is that included, Councillor Lerner, in your requests? It's sort of.
May I answer?
Well, through to staff, I don't think that was captured in the motion, but
Okay, well, this is a start, but I just hope we're not in the same situation after. I would encourage an application to come forward for council consideration.
so Councillor Mundell, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, staff, for all the work that you put into this. I think, again, I keep reminding myself that this was something we requested and initiated in February, so I really appreciate that we're here today to get this moving and consider what our options are for this really nice piece of property. I will support the referral motion at this point in time because I don't want there to be a back and forth to the point where I feel like if we don't get a little more information to present to the public, that they will come back to us and basically demand that. And then we'll probably have to take 2 steps back at that point. So I'm hoping that what we can come up with for September is something that the public will be happy to review and happy to go through, and hopefully that most of their questions are answered based on the information. But I think we're all feeling a little bit overwhelmed with some of the changing information maybe that has sort of come through. So having that clarity could be really helpful. So I don't want to delay this either, and I also don't want anything set up to be, happening in the summer, as it isn't the best months for consultation with the public. So hopefully that does give time then for the property owners to meet with our team and hammer out some of the details, because I know we will get asked these questions, and I get asked often about what's going on, what are things going to look like, how is this going to impact me and our community and the water and all the things. And from this, I might not have a lot of answers for folks who might be asking those types of questions. So I would just like to have that sort of information to share with them. But I can say that I really am looking forward to what's been presented. So I would like to see more.
Yeah, I just had a question. Can staff just read back the motion, please?
That council refers District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150, 2019 Amendment Regional Service Land Use Designation Regional Service Development Permanent Area Bylaw number 413, 2025 to staff to obtain further answers to questions asked and discussed by council at the June 23rd, 2025. Oh, sorry, July 23rd, that's a typo. 2025 regular meeting of council such as, and then you use the word regards, but I'm not sure if you meant to, various impact reports included in the previous information package provided to council and to confirm with the property owners on items such as size limits for retailers and the number of live work units. And further that this OCP amendment returned to a council meeting in September 2025 for reconsideration of second reading.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so my issue with the referral is, I guess I'm, hearing council, I'm okay with referring it, even though I disagree with that. If that's what council needs to move forward, then fine. But the part I take issue with is the size limits around, the commercial. Because I feel that that's already, dealing with something that may not be, undesired by the public. So to me, it comes off as this is something that's maybe undesirable to a councillor or to council as a body if it gets voted on, by the majority, but it may not actually reflect where the public is. And hence, that's why I think we need to have the public information back. If there was something that was completely backwards in what we had in this application that has been proposed, and we were to do an amendment to correct that, then that's fine. But I feel that we're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves, even asking the applicant, because they don't even have that feedback yet, that it may not be desired by the public or by Lantzville residents, or or it may be really desired by Lantzville public or residents. So I look at this. I look at our current industrial park. I think it's about 70. It's under 20 acres, anyways. And if you were to poll a bunch of people, is this a desirable place? And and the buildings, is it really aesthetically pleasing and stuff like that? You know what the answer is going to be. So I don't know. I think we need to ask people, get the input. We can go back to the owner group, but I think that really is going to limit potentially what could be on that site at some point down the road. And like one of the things that are listed is like film, film industry. They're I have been part of many discussions around that, not with this applicant, but, or sorry, not with us as applicant, but with the property owner. But, they look for hundreds of thousands of square foot of like warehouse space for studio space. So, and for us to have things always come back to council, that's why we have a zoning bylaw and why we have an OCP, is it removes council from getting too involved in every single application that comes forward. The only other thing I've heard a concern about, and this is Councillor Jones's concern about, and maybe I'm not hearing it correctly, or is that, in my opinion, we're not going to get something coming back that's going to be really close to what the end product is going to be. I don't think that's possible. It's not going to be like Coastline Station, where they came in with their full drawings and everything ready to go, so you had a really good idea, this is what's going there. I don't think we're going to have that level of certainty. So if we're looking for that level of certainty, I think we need to, work through that now and have an agreement as a council that we can accept that we're not going to have that level of certainty. We have a zoning bylaw that lists all the parameters, what's allowed, but it's not gonna have an actual site layout with this, you know, business is gonna go here, this business is gonna go there, this one's gonna be 150,000 square feet, this one's gonna be 20. It's not gonna have that. You have to allow the flexibility. To me, if we start tinkering with that kind of stuff, it could just kill it. I'll just leave it there. But anyways, I'll support the referral. That's really what we're debating here. But again, some of the content I don't really like. So go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
Yes, just two quick things. One is the reason I worded it that way to confer with the property owners is because, not to say that we're going to impose site limits, but that we would have the information as to whether they're amenable to site limits that we could send as part of the public information, not that we would do that. The second is that I purposely did not include the water aspect because some of those details are in camera, and I wanted this to be able to come back as part of the OCP process, whereas some of those details would be in camera, and I felt that it would muddy the waters. And I do agree with Mayor Swain, we would probably not have that exact level of certainty that we would see in certain other development applications. And I purposely did not ask for that level of certainty in the referral motion. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I know I would prefer to vote on it as is, but we'll see what happens.
It's just as a point of information through staff, and then we'll go to Councillor Savage. So the intent is to bring this back. Do we have a meeting on September 3rd? I don't even know what our schedule is, so.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Yeah, well, there's the usual 2 meetings in September. It's
Yeah.
just it's on the first and third Wednesday because of UBCM at the end of the month.
So we will have one on the 3rd.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good enough. Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. And just as a final comment, I see Councillor Lerner's request as a courtesy to the owner. So we're not making amendments to get his feedback. So we're not making amendments that are, you know, he doesn't support per se. So it's a good process. And just another thing is I had no idea, again, I'm surprised tonight, that I had no idea, just because we supported in our last motion the idea of light industrial and commercial on this property, that we would be doing the rezoning. I had no idea when we did that would be the case. I thought the whole time we'd be getting an application from the owner. So all this is a surprise tonight. That doesn't lessen my support at all. And hopefully it's not taken that way. And I appreciate the owner's efforts in this. I think it can be a great application. I just want all this sorted out for September, exactly what we're doing. If I don't know, it's important that I do know what we're doing here. So hopefully in September, first meeting in September, perhaps, and hopefully, that we can get all this clarified clearly what the process is. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna call a question on the referral motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. I'm gonna move the next motion that the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020 amendment, regional surface zone bylaw 414/2025 be given first reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously, and I'll get second reading on the floor. That District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020 amendment, regional zone or regional surface zone bylaw number 414/2025 be given second reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. And then I will make a referral motion right away to the September 3rd meeting to refer a second reading to September 3rd. Regular council meeting, seconded by Councillor Savage. And then for discussion, I don't need to say anything further to the seconder. To Councillor Jones.
Just a comment, I think we should consider doing it at the second meeting in September, just for the simple reason that the 3rd is right smack the first day. Kids are all going back to school and everything. I think just that extra 10 days, things will have settled in a little bit better for all.
I'll just give the reason for the date is because that's when the OCP second reading will come back with additional information. But go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
I think the way my referral motion on the OCP was worded was to a council meeting in September. So I didn't give a specific date because I didn't want to impose it on staff if they're busy. So my suggestion would be to change this by unanimous consent to, instead of saying September 3rd, to say the same meeting in September as the OCP amendment, and then staff bring it to whichever one they have ready. But that's just my thought. I'm fine either way.
Okay, by unanimous consent to remove the reference to September 3rd to a meeting in September. Any objections? Okay, seeing none, we'll just take that as that. Any additional? And again, it's just a referral motion. I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. There is one about the public information. You could get a motion on the floor on it, but I think, and then we can just refer it. But I'm assuming that this one will just land on whatever meeting in September. But again, I think what council needs to turn its mind to, and I already had an amendment ready to go, is that it's the number of meetings. And I don't think it's going to be satisfactory to do two, but we'll debate that at a meeting in September. All right, so that takes us on to the next one. So we're on to item C. So 7C is the 2025 to 2029 financial plan amendment for temporary public works yard, fire hall, and fire training area. So there are some readings there, but is there anything to be further introduced from staff?
Thank you, Your Worship. We did provide an amendment or a change. It was on a sheet that was provided. Did you get a copy of that? Has everybody in council got a copy of the changed motion for 7C? We wanted to beef up the third motion. It was recommended by the person that is assisting us with writing the grant, just to beef it up to accommodate some of the requirements of the grant that the municipality would have if it was awarded.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, through to council. Is anybody prepared to do first reading? Go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
Sorry, I had a question about the motions because I'm a bit
Yeah,
confused.
go ahead, sure.
So the agenda on page 3 of the agenda included first and second readings to a financial plan amendment, whereas the sheet that was handed out had different wordings. So I was wondering which of the two wordings is it that we're supposed to use?
Your Worship, I'm just going to jump in
Sure.
because the motions that were published with the original agenda were incorrect. So it's the ones on the handed out sheet that we need council to consider tonight.
Okay.
Apologies about that.
Thank you for that, and good question, Councillor Lerner, because, yeah, that was gonna probably be the hesitation why first reading wasn't gonna get moved or seconded, because it's lumping all three together, and I anticipate there's gonna be some good discussion here on some of the stuff. So, first item is so we're actually looking at the handed out sheet or replacement motions for 7C. Is someone prepared to move motion 1? And again, given the fact that we have a lot to go through this evening, if you're not going to be voting in favor, do not move it or second it. So I'm going to call for a mover of the first item. Okay, due to lack of mover and seconder, where that one is dead in the water. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, just to clarify what we're doing here, please, is that the last meeting, we made a motion that we're going to be getting a full report on anything to do with public works. So I'm assuming any changes through chair to staff on this financial plan are solely for the grant for the fire hall. Is that correct?
Yeah, through to Director Sapola.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to the councillor. What you had asked for at the prior meeting was more related to a permanent site. This is a temporary site that's to be set up on Clark Road that's needed for the operations to be removed out of 7099 Lantzville Road. In my report, I pointed out on page 120 that a permanent public works building requires a more comprehensive review, including substantive strategic planning around needs, location, and final design, which reflected what council had spoken about.
Yeah.
This kind of work couldn't have been turned around in this time period. And we will be bringing it to the budget discussions in September or October when we meet with council
Yeah.
to go through a more thorough review of said plan. Council had several questions that were excellent questions, and I took note of them all. And that's why I wanted to point out that this was strictly for a temporary site. In looking at the temporary site on Clark Road, this was a piece of property that was acquired by the community for a fire hall and a shop originally, which was the plan that was included. Again, we included it again with the last report, which was the site plan. And with the site plan, that was designed specifically for that piece of land. We wouldn't be losing any dollars with the development that's being proposed, with the site clearing, which is also a fire smart activity. With the gravel, that wouldn't be lost because that's on the site plan that's proposed. That is a parking lot area. And the fencing can be removed and reused. So we tried to make it so that we were going to be minimizing the impact to any future considerations for that lot.
Yeah, just for the sake of brevity, we also included temporary sites, which will be coming back in this report too. So I'm just wondering if I was to amend each of these to just to insert solely for the fire hall, for the purposes of fire hall grant, then it wouldn't hold you up at all.
Well, that's, if you look at your motion list, number 3 is for the fire hall grant. That one, I split up the motion so that you could specifically look at all 3
Yeah.
items.
So Councillor Savage, in your handouts in front of you, you should have a sheet with 3 separate motions.
I wasn't told that. Where is it then? It's somewhere here.
There, yeah, you're getting warm. There you are.
All right, so thank you. So then, just to be brief here, it's the only one pertaining to the fire hall grant is number 3?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, number 1 is not getting moved or seconded, so we'll just move on to number 2 so that, as you can read it, and this one has to do with fire training area. It's clearly it's described in the report. Again, I will move this one. I'll just get it on the floor because I'm prepared to vote in favor of it. But based on discussion, we'll see where it goes. That council amend the 2025 to 2029 financial plan to include $64,000 for the preparation of a fire training area to be funded from the General Capital Reserve. Seconded by Councillor Lerner. In our agenda on page 121, there is a very brief, it's a couple sentences with respect to these grounds, and we do have Chief Rukas here tonight to offer any or to answer any questions should council have any. But it was identified that the training area would be 160 feet by 160 feet. Obviously, the siting has not been determined for that, but basically this 160 by 160 feet area would be fenced and would have gravel and would be and also would have a large gate, as I read, and the entire cost would be $64,000 to do it. And just for reference, 160 by 160 is 25,600 square feet, which is basically 0.59 of an acre, or if you do better with hectares, 0.239 of a hectare. But it's, again, just over half an acre, almost 0.6 of an acre. That's how much area it would take up out of that 5-acre site. And I see a hand being raised over there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Just for point of clarification, all of the clearing and stripping was under the Public Works yard. So I would require more dollars, I would require more than $64,000 because none of the stripping or clearing was put to the fire training grounds. That was just
Okay.
in under the Public Works yard.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and I'm probably gonna be referring us back to staff anyways, and, you know, and now it needs to go back to staff so we can get the additional costing of that added in, so before we actually vote. But, Counselor Lerner is the seconder if you wish.
No, I'm fully in support of this, and I think that for 64,000, although it sounds like it'll be a bit more, it's worth it because we'll get years of fire training out of it. It could be years before we get a fire hall built. And I do note that this handout we received has the columns in it, including the blue column, which is specifically for this fire training grounds. But as staff mentioned, it doesn't include the site prep. Well, it does include site prep. It includes 28,000 site prep, but it sounds like some of it needs to be reworked. Now that we haven't voted on the Public Works yard, so I think this should be referred back to staff for more refinement of the total, and then we'll be able to make a determination at the next meeting.
Okay, so I'll just make the referral motion that the motion on the floor be referred back to staff to provide additional cost information with respect to creating the fire training grounds. And that's seconded by Councillor Savage. Any discussion on the amendment, or sorry, referral? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll move to call any question on the referral. All those in favor, opposed? That's carried unanimously. That takes us to item 3. This is the hot topic.
Point of information.
Yeah, go ahead.
May I please, if staff has a copy of this sheet, I don't seem to have one,
It's not in your stack of,
and I couldn't find it. Thank you very much. Anybody else need one?
okay, so let's just get the motion on the floor that council amend the 2025 to 2029 financial plan to include the construction of a fire hall in the amount of 14 million to be funded from the strategic fund grant, municipal finance association borrowing and general capital reserve, and further that the District of Lantzville Council supports the grant application to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities Strategic Priorities Fund for the Lantzville Fire Hall Replacement and Resilience Project, and that council is committed to providing overall grant management for the project, and that council confirms that any project cost overruns will be the sole responsibility of the district. So Councillor Savage is seconding. For council's benefit, the last two things are just requirements for the grant. If we don't have those in there, then that's for sure a way of killing the grant or having not being successful. With respect to the 14 million, that's a bit alarming to see, and I'm kind of just going based on some recent information I've seen. But again, you know, maybe Chief Rukas can bring that number into sharper focus for us here in a moment. But there's also, you know, the interesting thing is we're not going to be the only municipality applying for this. And, you know, and I'll probably bring more information at a later date, but I'm aware of another application that's being made for another fire department, which is in much higher need than what I would say we are. The one thing I'm going to, you know, I've kind of stated this before, in terms of the actual need to relocate that site, I know in the past there's been this, it's being put out there like, you know, we could be given 1 year's notice at any time from the Ministry of Highways to relocate our location. And essentially that is not true. If we do get notice from the Ministry of Transportation, Infrastructure, I think it's Ministry of Transportation and Transit now, or whatever it's called, you know, we will likely have 5 years notice to vacate and find another site to build our fire hall on. So that urgency should not be entered into our decision-making at any point. That is essentially, you know, untrue. So I think the other thing we have to consider is what the plan is for the parkway. and so the Nanaimo Parkway, and there was a study released a couple years ago now, and identified the Superior Road intersection where the fire hall is at. There being an interchange being eventually done at some point into the future. They were, I think, a little ambitious in the plan. I think they said by maybe 20, well anyways, within 10 years of the plan going out could be considered. But the reality is it's a $90 million project, and that's based on 2021 dollars. And so you can just imagine what the cost escalation of that is now if we bring it into today's dollars. And then also to get real about it in the sense that there are so many other interchanges that would be given much higher priority than that one up and down just Vancouver Island alone, let alone we got to factor in the rest of the province. And so forth. And the one thing we're becoming increasingly aware of is how little money there is from the provincial government as well as federal government in terms of doing these capital infrastructure projects. So, all best estimates, it's like it could be 20, 30 years down the road before an interchange is even considered there. Could be a very long time down the road. And these are my estimates based on my conversations with provincial representatives. So I know we need to look at the fire hall replacement at some point in the future. And really it's it's a tall ask in the grand scheme of things. And we will need some grant assistance with it, I'm sure, just like the other fire hall I'm aware of that's going after the same grant. They need it as well. And there's going to be many other fire halls up, throughout British Columbia and probably across Canada that are all going to be chasing after, these grant funding, these grant dollars. So, what do we do? I think it is important to have a design on the shelf. So we are shovel ready for these grants as they come along so we can apply. But when we look at these, we need to also look at are we building what's necessary and required, for to serve Lantzville into the future as well. And I've seen some pretty. I haven't even seen the design for the Lantzville. I haven't seen any preliminary designs whatsoever. I don't even know what. In some ways, I'm kind of voting on it with respect to $14 million. And I don't think council has seen any designs. I'm not aware of that. So it's kind of tricky in that standpoint. I totally support applying for the grant, no problem. And 7 million would be a nice sum to add to whatever else we can provide. But in terms of the one that I'm aware of, and again, I need to bring more information back on that. In terms of how many people it serves and so forth, they're applying 7 million for a $7 million fire hall, not a $14 million one. So I really need to have a much better understanding. What is this 14 million about? And yeah, I'll leave it there. But let's have Chief Rukas have a chance to comment maybe on the 14 million side of it, because I'm lost on that.
Yes, thank you. So the design that is shelf ready and sitting there good to go is a few years old now. It's the one that we did back in 2021, 22, when we applied for the last $7 million grant that we were not successful in. The $14 million was the price tag when it was a Class D estimate on that building at the time. I can tell you that we know that those numbers were incorrect from the estimate, the Class D estimate that we got. There was a huge contingency built into it that was more than we would ever see being there, which drove the price up. I completely agree with you, Mayor Swain, that the $7 million range is more the range that we're actually looking for, but the only number that we currently have is the $14 million that was estimated out to us before. Part of this would be within that grant process is resending out that design drawing to a different qualified surveyor to come back with a Class D estimate for us that would get us into the ballpark of where it actually is for Lantzville. So again, I can ensure that that plan does get sent out to you that we have ready to go. It was a larger plan that we whittled down to the point where we got it to, this is kind of the bare minimum of what we need. We don't have any really extras built into it anymore. This is the building that we can use to move forward in Lantzville and call it a 50-year building for us or longer. We have planned for the future within it, and we've put all the pieces that we need in that building to make it a successful fire department. So again, happy to share the plan with you. I'm a little surprised that you haven't seen it, and it may have been that it came out some time ago and it's kind of lost in the memory bank, but for sure we'll make sure that that gets sent out to you. You guys can have a look at it as well. And before we actually move forward with the grant process, part of it will be getting current Class D estimate to tell us exactly what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you for that. And just a quick just question on that. And this is a standalone fire hall at this point?
That's correct. It's just the fire department, no attachment to Public Works whatsoever.
Thank you, appreciate that. I think Councillor Savage was a seconder.
Thank you. So at the last meeting, I had mentioned that it could be a cost savings using the same design as Cumberland and having the same contractor build it. It would likely be cheaper building the same building. However, it sounds like you've already done a design, all paid for and so on.
Through the chair to Councillor Savage. So we spent a lot of time looking at other fire halls. We spent a lot of time with the construction company that designed and built the Cumberland Fire Hall, did some touring around there, actually had them come out and take a look at our Class D estimate, is where we realized 100% for certain that the 14 million was way out to lunch. Yeah. When they looked at it, they were like, it's nowhere near this to build the building that you're looking at. So to go out and actually get somebody else's plans, there's still a cost involved in that, where we have a project that's ready to go where we sit right now. Not to say that that's not a possibility down the road, should ours be too much, and we can still fit within one of these other designs. But I would really like to take the first shot at the design that we came up with, and we have spent a fair bit of money with our design as well, so it'd be nice to see it through. So I'd like it to kind of have the first shot, and if that's not in the direction that we want to go and it's financial, I totally understand where the finance side of it comes into all of this. It's not financially responsible of Lantzville to go that route, and we need to look at something else, then I'd be happy to look at those other ones.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize it was all done. And the other quick thing is, I'd mentioned last time that the idea of having accommodating a couple of ambulances, if that would be feasible, if you had contacted them or could contact them, just providing a couple of parking spaces, number one, and a rest area with a bathroom, number two. The reason being, if there's another spot they feel comfortable, when they're always on the road, it could help service in the north end. Plus, it's nice to help out as well. So if you could maybe consider that, if it's not too late for a...
Again, speaking with the previous CAO, that the consideration was there, not only for ambulance, but RCMP, Ministry of Forests, some of the dispatch centers, anybody that we could partner up with to help offset the cost of that building in the emergency services world would totally make sense. 100% open for that. And I do have my ear out there. There is some prospects, but the problem with a lot of them is that it takes a long time to get them to come to the table, because now we're talking provincial and federal agencies, and they're planning out, 5 years, 10 years on. So it's not a quick marriage. But we are reaching out for those as well.
I mean, we'd pay for it. It'd just be a minor cost. But anyway, yep, thank you.
Councillor Lerner?
Yes, so what I want to do is for us to apply for the grant, because the grant is something that only comes every few years, and if it's a $7 million grant, and we're looking at the $7 to $10 million range of a fire hall, then it would be quite a substantial, maybe even pay for the whole thing. What concerns me, of course, as was brought up, is we don't actually know how much this fire hall will cost, because we need to go get the estimate, and the grant is due in, I think, September. So I had a few questions through your worship to staff. The first is, if we pass this motion but we are unsuccessful for the grant, would this expenditure then still be contingent on the grant? In other words, if we don't get the grant, the project doesn't move forward.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Your
Director
Worship.
Spola.
Yes, you could add that to the motion, contingent on receiving the grant.
Okay.
If you wish to, you could add that
Thank
amendment
you.
if you wish to.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So is there a particular, yeah, okay, so I think at some point I'll want to make that amendment to make it contingent on the grant. But the other question I had through your worship to staff is, let's say we apply, let's say we're partway up through applying for the grant, or even we even get the grant, but we find out that it really is 14 million. It's not 7, it's not 10, it's 14, and we just can't afford that. Could we then we just say, no, we're not proceeding?
We'll bring forward the costing before we, hopefully, when we get the costing, we'll bring it forward. We can always pull back on the grant if it comes in at the 14 million, because that's not, like you say, I had to put 14 million in the motion because that's the cost that I have, right? And we need to go forward because the grant deadline is the 12th of September.
So,
Right.
Councillor Lerner, if I may, and through the rest of council, like with respect to the MFA, like if we're to borrow, then there's a borrowing bylaw that would have to be passed by this council, and we can kill it right there. So we don't need an amendment. Yeah, we just kill it, like by not authorizing any additional borrowing.
So we don't even need to amend contingent on the grant, because
Not at all.
we just
'Cause
wouldn't borrow
it's-
the money.
I think staff probably would agree with that, right? Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
then.
so we
then
can kill it.
Then
Not that I'm saying we do that, like if it's like, $7 million, $5, of course we're gonna pay the $5, right? But if it's like an extra 5 million, then that's a head scratcher, because we'd be committing to 5 million in extra borrowing, but go ahead.
If it's 7 million and $5, I'll donate the $5. Okay, perfect. So no, I can support this because basically this is the wording required to apply for the grant. And then at that point, we can kill it if we come in at a price we can't afford or don't get the grant. Thank you.
It's almost summer break when we're using like kill it to stop motions. Anyways, additional speakers, Councillor Mundell, go ahead.
Just want to be clear through to staff that if there's any language in the grant application that says, and there probably isn't, but my concern is just that you're bound by the parameters set out in the application, that if this is given, that you will be, because I'm nervous about sending this in with $14 million attached to it, because one, they may see that number and say, no way, that's a ridiculous number. Maybe we'll support a community that has a smaller request, noting that this is a large sum of money, and that it means maybe that we won't be able to fulfill the fact that we've made this application. So they might actually know right from the hop, if it's 14 million, well, we might be more likely to give it to the community that is only requesting 7, because they're more likely to actually follow through with the build. So my worry is that as we ask for 14, we may actually get rejected because that number is so high. And then secondly, I worry that there will be some maybe language in there saying that you're bound to the terms of this application, suggesting that if they put in 7, that we are supposed to put in our 7. So just have some red flags about supporting this.
Yeah, Director, well, you guys can arm wrestle. Who wants to speak? Go ahead.
He's going to talk about costing and I'll talk about the grant.
Sure.
So, to council, I would suggest that we probably aren't going to go forward to the grant application with a $14 million application. Basically, after this is, assuming this is approved tonight, we'll go forward with having it Class D estimated, at which time then we'll have a number to actually move forward with. And I suspect it's going to be lower than the 14 million. However, I'm not an estimating person, but based on and exactly what the mayor was speaking about earlier, some of the other comparable fire halls that have been built or in the process of being built in the area are nowhere near the $14 million amount. I think we definitely are going to be lower than.
Typically with through the chair, sorry. Typically, with grants, when they are approved, you get a contract, and it's in that contract that it lays out it's not so much in the application period, but in the contract itself. And we won't know probably for 3 or 4 months if we've been approved, and by that time, you guys will have killed it, as you've said tonight, with not passing a borrowing bylaw, because we'll have known, we'll have the pricing at that point in time. So, and the reason that I brought the 14 million is because it's up to a maximum of 14 million. It's definitely not, like, if the chief gets me better numbers, it will definitely, that's what's going in the application. And just to let council know, it's 100% up until the 7 million cap. So there's not even a matching portion, like it's not a 20% or anything like that. It's 100% to 7 million, and then we're pay for the rest. Just making sure you know.
And I haven't read the actual, parameters or the rules around that grant, but are you allowed to combine other grant monies to this?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything further from council? It's been moved and seconded. I think it's ready to go. Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, we are running very short on time, and I know I will not be extending this evening past 9:30. So we have a series of motions from the Parks and Trails Select Committee. I think they're all pretty straightforward. I think they can just be read. Unless an individual is strongly opposed, I suggest we just move to voting on them.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so
Would you like me to
Councillor
read the
Jones.
motions?
Yes, please. Yep.
First motion, that council approve the addition of a new pathway called hiking trail and its design guidelines to be approved as one of the edits to the future draft of the Trails and Journeyways strategy, further to the direction from council on March 20th, 24. Reference table 2 is per the report provided by the Parks and Trails Select Committee.
And seconded by Councillor Lerner. Any strong words against?
Just for council, page 124 of your new agenda. You will not find it in the original draft. So if you're wanting to take a look, go ahead.
Okay.
No,
All right,
nothing to add.
I'm gonna move to call in the question then. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. Okay, next one.
That council approve the addition of a new pathway called Bike Route and its design guidelines to be approved as one of the edits to the future draft of the Trails and Journeyways strategy, further to the direction from council on March 20th, 2024. Reference table 3 is per the report provided by the Parks and Trails Select Committee.
Second by Councillor Savage.
And I
Any
do
strong
have
words
one.
against?
I do have one thing, if you don't mind. Sorry, but I have been studying the BC Cycling Coalition guidelines. They've been doing a lot of work on safety for cyclists, and it's their recommendation that if the zone is 30 kilometers or less, the bike route be 1 meter wide, and if it's over 35, it be 1.5. So this is under width on page 125. It just says 1.5 meter located to the right of a White's line. I'd just like to add to there for greater than 30 kilometer zones, and add a line 1.0 meters located to the right of the white lines for 30 kilometer or less zones. The reason for this is quite simple. Our Lantzville roads are fairly narrow, and we don't want to be asking for 1.5 if something like the BC Cycling Coalition doesn't consider that to be a safety standard that we need. So motion to amend as I just said.
Sorry, you're amending?
Motion to amend the line called width on page 125 to add on to 1.5 meters located to the right of a road's white line in 50 kilometer or greater zones. And under that, to add a line 1.0 meters located to the right of a road's white line for 30 kilometer or less zones.
Okay, so I'm looking to our Deputy Long there to make sure that that was caught.
Sorry, we've got it.
Okay, you got it, and that's seconded by Councillor Savage. Okay,
Nope, nothing more to add, just trying to follow BC Cycling Coalition's guidelines.
Okay, I will move then to call in the question then on the amendment. All those in favor, opposed? Okay, that's carried, and then we're back to the main motion as amended. I do have to speak to this real briefly. So these are design guidelines. By no means do these, ensure that we have to do this, because this could have significant or profound financial implications on our roadways in Lantzville. So I get it's a, it's a want, but yeah, we'll leave it there.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
So I'll call the
Absolutely.
question. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. Okay, third one.
That council directs staff to add signage to the ENN multi-use path located from Clark Drive to Ware Road, and also to the path located on the north side of Lantzville Road from Tweed Hope Road to Dickinson Road, to indicate that these paths may be used by pedestrians and cyclists. Here on page 126, there's two examples there. One, you'll see a photo of the ENN trail in Nanaimo. The signage for that clearly says pedestrian and bicycle trail, so clearly shared. And the second is for a more generic, not just ENN, the same thing. Also samples taken from Nanaimo, and this is just simply
Okay,
to
so
address
it's just
concerns.
seconded by Councillor Savage.
Oh, sorry, I already spoke then out of turn. I have nothing more to say.
And, okay, so I guess it's just indicating that it's okay for bikes to be here, but it doesn't preclude other users like skateboarders, horse riders,
Correct.
whoever. Okay, good stuff. All right, anything further? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. And then, next one.
That council directs staff to add signage to the Tweed Hope crosswalk to indicate that it is used by pedestrians and cyclists.
Okay, do we have seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. Okay, I will call the question on this one. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously as well. Okay, so it takes us on to, through the council, I know there's a few items under 10A to C. I think some of this could take time, and time is ticking away very quickly, and we do have some stuff in camera that we need to get to as well. So my proposal to council would be to postpone items 7A, B, and C to our first meeting in September. So seconded by Councillor Savage, or
No, just going to comment.
10, A, B, and C. Yeah, well, I'm making that's my recommendation. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, I was just hoping to make C tonight so I could get in. When the summer students are here, they're amending the OCP. It's an important one. It would just take me 2 minutes to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to speak to it, but I think it could there could be significant debate on this. So I don't think it's a quick one and done, if that's what you're thinking. And we're already debating it. So, okay, so it doesn't sound like, is there any appetite to postpone items 10A through to 10C? Because we're going to lose the meeting at 9, well, I'm leaving at 9:30. That's just that simple.
A and B, or A, B, and C?
Well, A, B, and C. Just to get to our, and I don't even know if there's any late items or notices of motion tonight to be as well, so. All right, so I'll just make the motion to postpone items 10A through to 10C. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner. I don't think there's a discussion on this, but I think we've already had some, but if there's anything further to be said. Okay, I'll move to call in the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, Councillor Jones. Opposed. Okay, that's carried then. All right, any late items to be introduced? Any notices of motion? Public clarification, so persons recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and address for the record, and the agenda item for which they are seeking clarification, excluding public hearing topics, and may speak once up to 2 minutes to ask clarification questions, ask how the vote went, ask about technicalities, or request interpretation of abbreviations or jargon used during the meeting. Anybody in the gallery seeking clarification? Nothing, and then remotely is nothing. Okay, so I'll make the motion that the regular council meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91, C, D, and O of the community charter. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. I'll move to call in question. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously.